The Project Gutenberg ebook of the True History of the Ghost. This ebook is for the use of anyone anywhere in the United States and most other parts of the world at no cost and with almost no restrictions whatsoever. You may copy it, give it away or reuse it under the terms of the Project Gutenberg license included with this ebook or online at www.gutenberg.org. If you are not located in the United States, you will have to check the laws of the country where you are located before using this ebook. Title: The True History of the Ghost and All About Metempsychosis. Author: John Henry Pepper. Release date: January 9, 2024. Ebook number 72672. Language: English. Original publication: London, Castle and Company, 1890. Credits: Peter Becker and the online distributed proofreading team at https://www.pgdp.net. This file was produced from images generously made available by the Internet Archive. Start of the Project Gutenberg ebook: The True History of the Ghost. Diagrams illustrating the ghost. Machinery. CP8. From a drawing by Mr. Barnard Challen. The True History of the Ghost, and All About Metempsychosis. By Professor Pepper, author of Cyclopedic Science Simplified, The Playbook of Metals, and Boy's Playbook of Science, etc. etc. Castle and Company, Limited, London, Paris, New York and Melbourne. 1890. All rights reserved. Polytechnic, 309, Regent Street, London, W. Christmas, 1889. To Walter Hughes, Esq., Messrs. Hughes, Masterman, and Rue, 59, New Broad Street. My dear Sir, will you allow me to dedicate this little work to you, as some small recognition of the patience, care, and legal knowledge you displayed in bringing to a successful issue the difficult proceedings before the Attorney General, Sir Rundell Palmer, now Lord Selborne, and also those in Chancery, connected with the sealing of my ghost patent by order of the late Lord Chancellor Westbury, in September, 1863. With a grateful sense of the personal kindness and attention I have received from yourself and the other members of your firm, I am, my dear Sir, your old client and sincere friend, the author. The True History of the Ghost. When the Hyde Park Second Great Exhibition in 1862 had closed its doors, and the reaction from the bustle attendant on the arrival and departure of country visitors had set in, so that the halls and lecture rooms lately crowded with the numerous patrons of the old Royal Polytechnic were somewhat deserted, there came to the aid of the Institute a new invention, which people by common consent called the ghost. The latter was matured in this wise: Mr. Dirks, a patent agent, who had saved some property and was an independent man, wrote a paper for the Athenaeum Literary Journal, in which he described an optical effect that could be performed with sheets of glass. This paper excited no attention because the explanation of it was somewhat vague and unsatisfactory. The Christmas of 1862 was fast approaching, when Messrs. Horne, Thornthwaite, and Wood, philosophical instrument makers, of Newgate Street, invited the author to see a model which Mr. Dirks had caused to be constructed. This was the beginning of the ghost, but as Mr. Dirks said that an entirely new theatre must be built to show the effects which he allowed could only be seen by a few people placed in an upper gallery, and then only by daylight, it was no wonder that the Crystal Palace, the Colosseum, and other places had all declined to have anything to do with Mr. Dirks or his model, which was now placed in the hands of Professor Pepper, so called because the directors of the then Royal Polytechnic had determined that his title should be Professor of Chemistry and Honorary Director of the above institution. The title was not that of a hairdresser or a dancing master, but was conferred upon him by express minute of the Board of Directors. Professor Pepper had had his services in establishing classes at the Royal Polytechnic already recognized by the authorities at South Kensington, who gave him an honorary diploma in physics and chemistry of the Committee of Council on Education some 2 or 3 years before the Ghost was brought out, and at a time when he was sole lessee of the Polytechnic at a rental of £2,480 per annum, which had to be paid before a single lecture or entertainment was brought before the public. The classes Mr. Pepper established were for the study of drawing, French, German, arithmetic, and mathematics, with, of course, chemistry and physics, and pupils were admitted at very low fees in order to encourage the working men to attend. He also arranged Monday evening lectures for the working classes, and reduced the admission to sixpence if the workmen came with proper tickets supplied by Professor Pepper, but signed by the foreman under whom the men worked. All this took place about the years 1858 to 9, and was continued until the Institute finally closed its doors, principally caused by the fall of the stone staircase, and sold all off to a new limited liability company when Mr. Pepper was giving courses of lectures at the Crystal Palace, Sydenham. Again, for the last time, and during the absence of Professor Pepper in Australia, where he stopped 10 years, viz., from 1879 to 1889, a sale of the plant and machinery, and c. of the Royal Polytechnic took place, on the 28th of February and 3 following days in 1882. Mr. George Buckland and his friends tried to secure the lease by purchase, but, not completing the purchase in time, it was bought by Quinton Hogg, Esq., who has greatly added to the size of the building, which is chiefly devoted to classes, at least 50 in number, teaching all kinds of useful knowledge, with a large day school for boys, who are numbered by hundreds, and are well and most efficiently taught by competent masters. The laboratory has also been enlarged, and is now under the able guidance of Mr. Ward, the teacher of chemistry and physics. But to return to the Christmas of 1862, ever memorable in the annals of the Institute because Mr. Pepper brought out the illusion in quite a different manner from that contemplated by Mr. Dirks, and so improved and simplified the Ghost that it could be shown in any lecture hall or theatre, if sufficiently large to contain the necessary apparatus. The following is a narrative from the lips of the inventor of the Ghost improvement just before Christmas Day in 1862. I invited a number of literary and scientific friends, and my always kind supporters, the members of the press, to a private view of the new illusion to be introduced into Bulwer's romantic and dramatic literary creation, called A Strange Story. The effect of the first appearance of the apparition on my illustrious audience was startling in the extreme, and far beyond anything I could have hoped for and expected, so much so that, although I had previously settled to explain the whole modus operandi on that evening, I deferred doing so, and went the next day to Messrs. Carp Mail, the patent agents, and took out a provisional patent for the Ghost illusion, in the names, at my request, of Dirks and Pepper. The day after the first evening I showed the Ghost, Mr. Dirks came down to the Polytechnic, and after saying how much pleased he was with the manner in which I had introduced the illusion, ended by handing me a letter, in which he spoke highly of my work in respect of the Ghost, and gave me spontaneously whatever profits might accrue from the invention. Moreover, he went to Carp Mail with me, and, being an old and experienced patent agent himself, assisted in drawing up the patent which is here copied, with my original drawing of the improved method of showing the Ghost by the use of a double stage, at the old Royal Polytechnic Institute. AD 1863, February 5. And 326. Apparatus for exhibiting dramatic and other performances. Letters patent to Henry Dirks, of Blackheath, in the county of Kent, civil engineer, and John Henry Pepper, of number 309, Regent Street, in the county of Middlesex, Professor of Chemistry, and Honorary Director of the Polytechnic Institution, for the invention of improvements in apparatus to be used in the exhibition of dramatic and other like performances. Sealed the September 25, 1863, in pursuance of an order of the Lord Chancellor, and dated the February 5, 1863. Provisional specification left by the said Henry Dirks and John Henry Pepper at the office of the Commissioners of Patents, with their petition, on the February 5, 1863. We, Henry Dirks, of Blackheath, in the county of Kent, civil engineer, and John Henry Pepper, of number 309, Regent Street, in the county of Middlesex, Professor of Chemistry, and Honorary Director of the Polytechnic Institution, do hereby declare the nature of the invention for improvements in apparatus to be used in the exhibition of dramatic and other like performances, to be as follows. The object of our said invention is by a peculiar arrangement of apparatus to associate on the same stage a phantom or phantoms with a living actor or actors, so that the two may act in concert, but which is only an optical illusion as respects the one or more phantoms so introduced. The arrangement of the theatre requires, in addition to the ordinary stage, a second stage at a lower level than the ordinary one, hidden from the audience as far as direct vision is concerned. This hidden stage is to be strongly illuminated by artificial light, and is capable of being rendered dark instantaneously, whilst the ordinary stage and the theatre remain illuminated by ordinary lighting. A large glass screen is placed on the ordinary stage and in front of the hidden one. The spectators will not observe the glass screen, but will see the actors on the ordinary stage through it as if it were not there. Nevertheless, the glass will serve to reflect to them an image of the actors on the hidden stage when these are illuminated, but this image will be made immediately to disappear by darkening the hidden stage. The glass screen is set in a frame so that it can readily be moved to the place required, and it is to be set at an inclination to enable the spectators, whether in the pit, boxes, or gallery, to see the reflected image. The glass is adjustable, and it is readily adjusted to the proper inclination, by having a person in the pit and another in the gallery to inform the party who is adjusting the glass when they see the image correctly. Specification filed in pursuance of the conditions of the letters patent, and of an order of the Lord Chancellor, by the said Henry Dirks and John Henry Pepper in the Great Seal Patent Office on the 3-1 October 1863. To all to whom these presents shall come, we, Henry Dirks, of Blackheath, in the county of Kent, civil engineer, and John Henry Pepper, of number 309, Regent Street, in the county of Middlesex, Professor of Chemistry, and Honorary Director of the Polytechnic Institution, send greeting. Whereas Her Most Excellent Majesty Queen Victoria, by her letters patent, bearing date the 5th day of February, in the year of our Lord 1863, in the 26th year of her reign, did, for herself, her heirs and successors, give and grant unto us, the said Henry Dirks and John Henry Pepper, her special license that we, the said Henry Dirks and John Henry Pepper, are executors, administrators, and assigns, or such others as we, the said Henry Dirks and John Henry Pepper, are executors, administrators, and assigns, should at any time agree with, and no others, from time to time and at all times thereafter during the term therein expressed, should and lawfully might make, use, exercise, and vend, within the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, the Channel Islands, and Isle of Man, an invention for improvements in apparatus to be used in the exhibition of dramatic and other like performances, upon the condition, amongst others, that we, the said Henry Dirks and John Henry Pepper, are executors, or administrators, by an instrument in writing under our or their hands and seals, or under the hand and seal of one of us or them, should particularly describe and ascertain the nature of the said invention, and in what manner the same was to be performed, and cause the same to be filed in the Great Seal Patent Office on or before the 3rd day of November, in the year of our Lord 1863. Now know ye, that I, the said John Henry Pepper, on behalf of myself and the said Henry Dirks, do hereby declare the nature of the said invention, and in what manner the same is to be performed, to be particularly described and ascertained in and by the following statement thereof, that is to say the nature and object of our said invention is by a peculiar arrangement of apparatus to associate on the same stage a phantom or phantoms with a living actor or actors, so that the two may act in concert, but which is only an optical illusion as respects the one or more phantoms so introduced. The arrangement of the theatre requires in addition to the ordinary stage a second stage at a lower level than the ordinary one, hidden from the audience as far as direct vision is concerned. This hidden stage is to be strongly illuminated by artificial light, and is capable of being rendered dark instantaneously whilst the ordinary stage and the theatre remain illuminated by ordinary lighting. A large glass screen is placed on the ordinary stage and in front of the hidden one. The spectators will not observe the glass screen, but will see the actors on the ordinary stage through it as if it were not there. Nevertheless, the glass will serve to reflect to them an image of the actors on the hidden stage when these are illuminated, but this image will be made immediately to disappear by darkening the hidden stage. The glass screen is set in a frame so that it can readily be moved to the place required, and it is to be set at an inclination to enable the spectators, whether in the pit, boxes, or gallery, to see the reflected image. The glass is adjustable and it is readily adjusted to the proper inclination by having a person in the pit, and another in the gallery, to inform the party who is adjusting the glass when they see the image correctly. Having thus stated the nature of our invention, we will proceed more fully to describe the manner of performing the same. Description of the drawings. Fig. 1. Frontispiece. Figure 1 of the annexed drawings illustrates the arrangement of a theatre for carrying our invention into effect. The figure shows a section taken through the stage, the orchestra, the pit, and gallery. A is an opening which is formed in the ordinary stage. In the front part of the stage, but at a lower level, is the hidden stage B. The opening A is capable of being closed at the top by trapdoors, a plan of which is shown at figure 2. When the trapdoors are closed, actors on the ordinary or visible stage can pass freely to and fro above the lower or hidden stage. The ordinary stage and trapdoors are covered with green baize or other dark material, so that when the trapdoors are opened, the audience, even those in the gallery, will not readily be able to perceive the opening. The actors or objects corresponding with the phantom images, which it is desired to represent to the audience, are on the lower or hidden stage B, and are strongly illuminated by the limelight or the electric light, or other powerful illuminating means may be employed. This light must accompany the actor in any movement he has to make. The hidden stage B, and the lanterns C, may be mounted on a carriage on rails, a plan of which is shown at figure 3, so that when it is necessary for the phantom actor or object on the lower stage to be moved, the lanterns may be caused to move also, or the lanterns may remain stationary whilst the actor moves, provided the whole space through which he moves is sufficiently illuminated. The lanterns are to be provided with means for instantaneously extinguishing or masking the light, and for reproducing it so that the phantom may be made to disappear and reappear at pleasure, whilst the audience and the ordinary stage will be more or less lighted in the ordinary manner according to the effects desired to be obtained. For this purpose a board B superscript 1 is employed, which is capable of being raised into the position shown by dotted lines so as entirely to cut off the light from the hidden stage when desired, or an ordinary opaque shade attached to each lantern may be used for the purpose, or when using the limelight the desired effects are caused by gradually or instantaneously, as the case may require, cutting off the supply of gases, and the phantom image may by any of these means be caused gradually or instantaneously to fade away. When the trapdoors over the hidden stage are open, the part D thereof assists in hiding the lanterns and the opening from the audience. The part E is raised into the position shown in the drawing and acts, together with the part D, to screen the lanterns from the audience, and also to ensure that any actor or object on the hidden stage shall not accidentally appear above the level of the visible stage. The phantom actor, when standing on the stage B, leans against the screen K, which is inclined so as to be parallel with the glass screen, and is covered with black velvet or other dark material, as is also the stage B, in order that no image of either the screen K or the stage B may be seen in the reflection. F. The glass screen, is a large sheet of plate glass on the ordinary stage, of sufficient size to reflect the full length of the actors or objects on the hidden stage to the audience in the pit, boxes, and galleries of the theater. The hidden stage is between the glass and the audience. The glass may be mounted in a swing frame so that it may be adjusted to the angle required, or it may readily be done by screws or ropes and pulleys, or otherwise. The glass screen is to be set at such an inclination as to bring the reflected image to the level of the visible or ordinary stage. This will enable the spectators, whether in pit, boxes, or gallery, to see the reflected image without any obstruction to the view above the footlights, and it will be visible from all parts of the house except those extreme positions which cannot command a view through the glass of that part of the stage where the image is reflected. The proper angle of inclination of the glass is ascertained experimentally by having persons in the different parts of the house to say when the image is shown to them correctly. The scenery is so disposed as to conceal the frame of the glass, and we prefer that the glass should be able to descend into an opening or box G beneath the stage, in which case we counterbalance the glass and frame so that they may easily be raised into the position desired by means of a rope H, by which, aided by the bolts I, the glass is supported in the required position. The glass may either be adjusted when screened from the audience, and remain in position during the scene, or, the proper angle of inclination having been previously ascertained by experiment, the glass may be raised onto the ordinary or visible stage, and placed in position whilst the scene is before the eyes of the audience under a subdued light without the movement being observed, for which latter purpose the top bar of the frame of the glass should be made very light or be omitted altogether. This arrangement admits of an actor on the visible stage passing across the space which the glass is to occupy, and this he can do just before the appearance of the phantom, and then immediately the glass is run up, the trapdoors are opened, the actor or image on the hidden stage is illuminated and the phantom appears. This arrangement will render it less likely that the audience should imagine that there is anything interposed between them and the actors than if the glass plate remained permanently in position during the scene. The hidden or lower stage may be provided with a well or hole up which an actor can rise, he will then appear as a spectre rising out of the visible stage. The lanterns may be provided with colored glasses in order to heighten the effect. As the actors on the visible stage do not themselves see the spectral images, marks should be placed on the stage or other indications made in order that they may know the position which the specters appearing to the audience are to occupy. In order to appear upright upon the visible stage, the actor or object on the hidden stage should be inclined so as to be as nearly as practicable parallel with the surface of the glass screen. In effecting this, assistance is afforded by the screen K of the hidden stage. Several sheets of glass may be similarly employed at the same time if one is not of sufficient width to cover the different parts of the stage at which it is desired that the spectre should appear, the interval or junction being concealed by the introduction of a tree or column or some other piece of scenery. Having thus described the nature of our invention and the manner of performing the same, we would have it understood that we make no claim to any of the parts separately, but what we claim is the combined arrangement as herein described of a glass inclined forwards towards the audience, and two stages, one the ordinary visible stage, and the other a hidden stage at a lower level than the ordinary visible stage and illuminated with a much stronger light than either the ordinary visible stage or the body of the house, and which light is capable of being instantaneously, or, if so required, gradually withdrawn and restored. In witness whereof, I, the said John Henry Pepper, have hereunto set my hand and seal, this 31st day of October, in the year of our Lord 1863. J. H. Pepper. L.S. Returning to the author's narrative, the ghost illusion was first shown in what was called the small theatre of the Royal Polytechnic, but as the audience increased so rapidly it was removed by the following Easter and shown on a grander scale in the large theatre of the institution, and where the dissolving views were usually exhibited. The late Mr. O'Connor, of the Haymarket, painted the first scene used, representing the laboratory of the haunted man, which Christmas story the late Charles Dickens, by his special written permission, allowed me to use for the illustration of the ghost illusion. This ghost scene ran for 15 months, and helped to realize, in a very short time, the sum of £12,000, not counting what I received for granting licenses to use the ghost, and also the sums realized during many successive years as new ghost stories were brought out. Sylvester now patented the use of looking glass in the performance of the ghost, which I thought very good, and bought of him he could only infringe my patent by attempting to use it, and therefore his patent was useless to anybody else but myself. Mr. King, of Bath, brought out what he termed a new patent ghost, but my solicitors, Messrs. Hughes, Masterman, and Hughes, very soon quashed the alleged patent by appearing against Mr. King, when he tried to get his patent passed before the Solicitor General, the result of which is thus described by the London New Music Hall Journal. Manchester, August 10, 1863. Withdrawal of the ghost from the London New Music Hall. It is with unfeigned regret that I have to announce to my numerous patrons the withdrawal of the ghost from the London New Music Hall. The reason is as follows: my engagement with Mr. King, to whom a large sum of money was paid down, was with the understanding that he should personally superintend the first representation of the great optical illusion, the marvelous ghost, which, however, he failed to do, and to which is attributable the failure and disappointment which ensued. I also distinctly understood that his representation was free from any infringement of the right of patent, and that it was in every respect equal to the original production of Professor Pepper. I beg, therefore, in order to acquit myself from the odium of disappointment which may have been felt by the unusually large attraction which it has occasioned to the London during the past week, to state that I have received an intimation from Professor Pepper that Mr. King's representation is an infringement upon his own, and that I have no course left open to me but at once to bear the disappointment, and allow its immediate withdrawal. It is my intention, however, to seek redress in the proper quarter. I therefore trust that my numerous friends will see the predicament in which I have been placed, and readily acquit me of all blame, assuring them that I am at all times, regardless of expense, anxious to secure the most sterling talent that can be procured, and to avoid anything in the shape of disappointment. James Harwood. I now introduced a miniature ghost of a danseuse, which, being only about 15 inches high, danced on the stage to the great amusement of my very numerous kind patrons. I took out a provisional patent for this addition to the Ghost Mysteries, and shall reproduce it this Christmas at the Polytechnic. A Manchester man, under the nom de plume of Kit Skeuft, thus ridicules the efforts made by King to produce the ghost at Manchester. Th Ghost. When I were a lad, but that weren't yesterday, nor day before, nor any day last week, I used to be traded now and then to what were called a good ghost story. Oud folk then were vast fond o ticklin young folks years wi tales about hobgoblins, ghosts, carnivorous giants, vampires, ogres, unamax o uncouth beings. I rarely believe they thought such tales were profitable, morally unreligiously spakin, had little thought about th uproar ut they caused among ear juvenile nerves. Wilcon a remember bein' na on then freetin' till it were hardest job I world to keep my heart fro other roisin up into my meoth, or scutterin' dawn in clugs. My would ha stood up loik bristles uvid leadin' brush, un best ut ever were made would ha fawn a victim to any attempt to smooth it down to its gradely place, nay, I believe if anybody had tried wiparo curlin' tungs to make it twist, they'd ha brocken loik out chips. These tales gi'n me no particular notion as to what ghosts were, p'raps tellers had no very clear idea theirselves, but I get o sort uv a general inclin ut they were a very queer, a very extraordinary, on a very willful set o beins, some on vast fond uv a toity practical joke, on I their element when they were pot errand folks plucks to make out what the dickens they meant by their murlocs. For some days good folks o city o Manchester have had before their een up o vobs, on shop windows, bills printed I black on flare and red ink, letters big enough welly for a blind chap to see, an onsen at London new music ha appearance uv a Merville Louse Ghost King's Ghost, as a rival to that uv Professor Pepper. Loik a curious folk are made hungry expectation, I went other need to have a look at it, imaginin', as I went along through streets, that at last I should get a peep at a spectre as would carry back my mind to my young days, ungie me some inseet into nater and essence uv spirits not such as one bays at key onter uv evolved, but such as proceed fro clay tenement that lies, motionless, decayin' within. I dern't know but I felt a little bit serious too, a tunchy bit groik wi fear, for it met be that seat would be made doubly awful by appearance uv my granny's ghost, if it were, who seed me, who'd be sure tgie me a blisterin' wi her tung, for who were a rattler at takin' shaney eot on me wi that glib little member uv hus. But when ghost did appear or should have appeared in its full proportions, by mac off on mijal as far fro posses shun uv a genuine crumb o ghostly wisdom as ever were I my born days. It should ha been an illustrious ghost no less a chap than Aud Hamlet, sovereign uv Ennis Hunt Denmark, therefore a rail king's ghost, bought patent. But that may account for its peevishness, its tricks, on its uncommon way o introducin' itself. It wouldn't appear at once, at fust it showed its yed, then, giving itsel a wry neck, it lugged in its shoulders on its breast, then it disappeared, shortly begun to ascend wi its legs feet, or else appear as it had borrowed fro a neighbouring corpse, uppermost, when it had getten so far in seat as its sternum, it flittered about in an ungracious manner, as if tryin' to doin's cure on its yed. P'raps it were because it were a king's ghost that it were so wilful, tried to be so unnatural in its ways, for some oud kings were rum jockeys, for out we know, Aud Hamlet met be loik Aud George III, who, Byron says, geet into heaven by mistake, wi his yed under his arm, not havin' any use for it in a place where good thoughts on good principles are alone acceptable. Aud Hamlet met be laborin' under an idea that Lancashire were a place in which a chap would be uv as mich service to his felly craters when stannin' on his yed as when reort up usual style on his feet. This ghostly business is called an optical illusion. Shouldn't it be called an optical delusion? I know I never seed as many pairs o optics so noisily chet as there were on this occasion. Professor Buck's conjurations we know beforehand are nout but deceptions, but I'll be flogged if I way o bamboozlin' one's wits, unmakin' sense uv seat counterfogle a ear other senses, he isn't far-eyed o king's ghost a very prince besoid a regular muff. Naw Pepper's ghosts, they say, are genuine, are what they're professed to be foine specimens uv what true science unprofessional skill can accomplish. when a th whole bevy o king's ghosts are mustered, they're not, placed alongside o one pepper, with so much as a pinch o salt, though, by th way at they try to catch out brids, they met have a large stock on hond o th latter herdical. But, mind yo, do not blame Mester Harwood, th less o th ha. Now, not I, he, understand, has been done as will, nay to a bigger tune, than th public, on that he's doubly vexed to think that he should, aimin at producin every novelty ut swooth present into th public, pay his good money for a bad ghost. On to a th professionals engaged at th establishment it mun be awfully mortifyin', for what gives th horrors more than an ominous conviction that th ghost winnot vok. However, if rightly informed, King's ghost is to vanish, Peppers is to appear in its place. This shows a determination not to be done wi opposi jack-o'-lantern. By th Music Hall Journal a see to that stead, th original cure, Mester where, th author uv so many comic songs, are to appear next week. But o these chaps a seed I lun none, when I went to look at th exhibition, my word, if they do not make Lancashire folk loaf away unpleasant dreams, shift a th bile left by th ghost, no judge, that's So, there's no need to despair. As Shakespeare says, shadows avant, make way for substantial entertainments. Yours greatly, August 7, 1863. Kitskjöft. Towards the end of May, 1863, the audiences increased enormously at the Royal Polytechnic, so that it became necessary to have a select afternoon performance, the admission fee being raised from 1s to 2s. 60 on Saturday mornings only. It was at this period that I was honoured with a visit from their Royal Highnesses the Prince and Princess of Wales and suite, and after the performance had been witnessed by them, I showed the Prince and Princess how the ghost was raised, and explained to my distinguished audience all the machinery and appliances used. Some of the suite amused the Prince by becoming ghosts, and the following notice appeared the next morning in the Times, May 20, 1863. Yesterday morning, by special command, Professor Pepper had the honor of delivering his ghost lecture before their Royal Highnesses the Prince and Princess of Wales, and the Prince and Princess Louis of Hesse, who were attended by the Countess of Macclesfield, Baroness von Schenk, Major Teasdale, and Captain Westerweller. The distinguished party were received by Professor Pepper, and after being conducted round the galleries passed to the large theatre, where a commodious royal box had been prepared for their reception. At the conclusion of the lecture, by the invitation of Professor Pepper, they went behind the scenes, and examined with much interest the machinery and appliances for producing the Polytechnic ghost. At the conclusion, their Royal Highnesses graciously thanked the directors of the institution, and after shaking hands with Professor Pepper, retired. The Times, May 20, London, England. The ghosts of the Polytechnic, which manifest themselves as a startling appendix to Mr. Pepper's strange lecture on optical illusions, have proved singularly attractive, and when the hour arrives for their appearance the lecture room becomes as crowded as the pit of a theatre on the night of Boxing Day. Second notice, The Times, January 20, London, England. The real element of success in the production of the strange story, however, must be assigned to the ghost. So many base and servile imitators now appeared with a sorry imitation of the Polytechnic ghost that it became necessary to send the following advertisement to all the London papers. Advertisement. Caution to persons pirating Professor Pepper's ghost. Messrs. Dirks and Pepper are the sole patentees of the ghost invention. The third and last hearing took place before Sir Rundell Palmer, the Solicitor General, on Saturday the August 15, 1863, when he decided in favor of Messrs. Dirks and Pepper. I also addressed the following letter to the Press Polytechnic Institution, 309, Regent Street, London, 21 St. August, 1863. To the editor of ____________, sir, on public grounds I venture to call your attention to the fact that many persons are now going about the country endeavoring to pirate effects to be produced by the apparatus patented by Mr. Dirks and myself, and to deceive the public by giving them an exhibition with which they are certain to be disgusted, and with which I have nothing to do. I beg to enclose one of the numerous statements I have received from different parts of the country alluding to the imposture now so commonly practiced. I shall esteem it a favor if you would insert this and the accompanying statement in your valuable journal. I am, sir, your obedient servant, John Henry Pepper. I won all the cases taken into court against persons using my name in a fraudulent manner, and in one flagrant instance the magistrates gave the impostor 14 days' imprisonment for getting money under false pretenses. The famous savant Mon l'Abbé Moyne, of Paris, wrote the brief notice of the ghost which is here copied from his journal called Les Mondes, May, 1863 Nouvelles et Faits divers. Royal Polytechnic Institution. Les énergiques directeurs de l'Institution Royale Polytechnique ont inauguré une série de matinées fashionables amusantes du samedi qui, a enjoué par les 2 séances déjà données, permettant un très heureux succès. On a certitude remarque l'élection expérimentale de M. Pepper, sur l'Italium, sur les merveilles de l'analyse spectrale, et la particulier à la découverte du nouveau métal. En raison du beau monde qu'elles devaient recevoir, les galeries avaient de tapisseries et décorées avec gout de plantes exotiques rares. Comme intermède, on avait coiffé les fresques, qui en a rien perdu de sa fraîcheur et de son attrait, au triple point de vue musical, optique et humoristique. La semaine dernière, LLARR. Le prince et la princesse de Galles ont fait une visite privée à cet incomparable établissement, et elles ont voulu en les initiat auxiliary mystères de fantamies. M. Pepper n'a pas cru pouvoir me répondre à leurs désirs en faisant apparaître, sous forme de spectre, à leur grande surprise, un de personnes même de leur suite. Depuis que ce petit article apparu dans les journaux anglais, notre ami, M. Pepper, est venu installer à Paris, au Théâtre Impérial du Châtelet, le mystérieux appareil avec lequel il réalise ses apparitions fantastiques. De son côté, M. Robin a inauguré, samedi dernier, dans la salle des jeux fréquentée du Faubourg du Temple, ses représentations de spectres vivants impalpables. L'attention publique étant vivement excitée, il nous semble que le moment est venu de rappeler l'article suivant insere par nous dans le Cosmos de 1858, tome 13, p. 563, et qui ne fut pas assez remarque, parce que le moment n'était sans doute pas venu fantomes optiques mm Dirks et Pepper ont invent une charmante disposition optique à la de laquelle il fait apparaître de spectres et produit d'illusions singulières. Il partage en 2 compartiments, par un large glacé sans tain, comme on en fait beaucoup aujourd'hui, la salle dans laquelle la scène doit se jouer. Dans le premier compartiment, en avant, il place les acteurs dont on ne devrait voir que les images, destinées à représenter les spectres ou revenants. Dans le second compartiment, à droite, il installe les acteurs qui devront être vus en personne, les spectateurs sont installés dans l'obscurité, au-dessus du premier compartiment en avant. Dans cette disposition, évidemment, si la scène commence, les spectateurs verront directement, à travers la glace, les acteurs du second compartiment, ils verront par réflexion seulement, ou dans leurs images formées au sein du premier compartiment et mais les auxiliaires acteurs vous en personne, les acteurs situés au-dessus deeux, dans le premier compartiment. Ces images réfléchies, beaucoup moins lumineuses, feront l'effet d'ombres vivantes, d'êtres revenus de l'autre monde, on pourra les faire avancer, rétrograder, sortir ou rentrer à travers les murs, en faisant varier la distance à la glace d'acteurs qu'ils représentent, et en obtiendra d'effets vraiment extraordinaires. C'est assurément une excellente idée. C'est bien aussi là le secret de ces photographes spirits dont l'Amérique eu l'initiative et qui ont tant fait de bruit. And now Mr. Dirks, who had hitherto been most friendly to me, began to be otherwise, and to write me offensive letters, which I forbear to publish. Every morning and evening at the Royal Polytechnic I mentioned his name as a co-inventor. The daily program always contained his name, and I can appeal to numbers who know me well that I have never attempted to borrow other people's honors from them, and if a discovery was made always gave to the person making it full credit for the same. It is certain that Dirk's apparatus was comparatively useless and that he knew nothing of the use of my double stage, and in fact the Solicitor General, Sir Roundell Palmer, declined to grant a patent on Dirk's crude idea, as it was only when he understood the great improvement made by the use of the double stage and the employment of the electric light that he granted, as stated in the copy of the advertisement, at the third hearing the ghost patent which the Lord Chancellor subsequently ordered to be sealed after great opposition made by several music hall proprietors. It is a very curious fact that the original model which Horne, Thornthwaite, and Wood sent me was stolen by some person, who in my absence gave a fictitious verbal order as if from the firm named, and I never saw it again. The thief could not, however, have derived much benefit from the robbery, as the model was more likely to lead the possessor in the wrong than the right direction. I suppose the model went to America or Australia, as my imitators in those countries mostly made a terrible fiasco of the ghost when they first attempted to show it. The following notice by a newspaper, of which unfortunately the name was cut off and lost, gives a very fair criticism on the ghost and its inventors, the patent ghost. Modern researches in spiritualism have led to one practical result: the discovery of a ghost. Not of an ordinary old-fashioned ghost, appearing in the midnight hour to people with a weak digestion, haunting graveyards and old country mansions, and inspiring romance writers into the mischief of 3-volume novels, but of a well-behaved, steady, regular, and respectable ghost, going through a prescribed round of duties, punctual to the minute. A patent ghost, in fact. This admirable ghost is the offspring of two fathers, of a learned member of the Society of Civil Engineers, Henry Dirks, Esq., and of Professor Pepper, of the Polytechnic. To Mr. Dirks belongs the honor of having invented him, or, as the disciples of Hegel would express it, evolved him from out of the depths of his own consciousness, and Professor Pepper has the merit of having improved him considerably, fitting him for the intercourse of mundane society, and even educating him for the stage. After having bowed to the public at the Polytechnic Institution, he some weeks ago made his debut upon the boards of the Britannia Theatre, in a new and highly original drama, entitled, The Widow and Orphan's Faith, Hope, and Charity, in which piece he continues to present himself nightly to crowded audiences with the greatest imaginable success. Possibly, all Britons do not know where the Britannia Theatre is situated, and it may not be necessary, therefore, to state that it has its place in the metropolitan suburb of Hoxton, inhabited chiefly by toymakers and doll dressers, and marked under the letter N by the Postmaster General. Sceptics may smile at the idea of a patent ghost making his first appearance in a neighborhood so little fashionable, and so far removed from the residence of Master Home, Commander-in-Chief of Spirits and Mediums, and Solicitor General of Demons, Ghosts, and Shadows of the Universe. It is no mere accident, for it appears that there are good spiritual reasons why the ghost should have come out at Hoxton and nowhere else. Here, in this toy-making quarter, there lived, about 100 years ago, a worthy citizen and officer of the Lord Mayor, Mr. Francis Bancroft, who was haunted all his life long with the one great idea that his body was predestined to arise visibly from the dead, and to wander over British earth in the shape of a tangible ghost. So deeply impressed was he with this belief that, while walking in the flesh, his chief object was to take measures towards ensuring his safe and speedy resurrection. With considerable faith in the celebrated maxim of Luther's active Roman antagonist, indulgence-selling monk Tetzel, sobald das Geld im Kasten klingt die Seele aus dem Fegfeuer springt, as soon as the money rattles in the boxes, the soul jumps out of purgatory. Citizen Bancroft took great care, during his mortal career, to accumulate a respectable amount of cash with the object of forming a bribe for the guardians of his body. Accordingly, in his will he left the sum of £28,000 for the establishment of schools and almshouses, with this proviso, that his body should be preserved within a shoe glass in the church. During the time I was in Paris, and arranging the ghost for exhibition at the Théâtre du Châtelet under Mons. Hostein, I was surprised to find that the conjurer, Mons. Robin, was showing the ghost at his séances. My lawyers interviewed him, and discovered that, some years before, a little toy had been brought out and patented in France by which a miniature ghost could be shown. It consisted of a box with a small sheet of glass, placed at an angle of 45 degrees, and it reflected a concealed table, with plastic figures, the spectre of which appeared behind the glass, and which young people who possessed the toy invited their companions to take out of the box, when it melted away, as it were, in their hands and disappeared. In France at that time all improvements on a patent fell to the original patentee, and under that law I lost the patent in France, but Mons. Hostein honorably paid me a large sum of money for the use of my improved ghost at the Théâtre du Châtelet, Paris. Query: had Mr. Dirk's patent agent, in his searches after patents, ever come across the toy invented in Paris? Because it is substantially the ghost apparatus and produced that illusion, and thus it shows how correct are the words of Solomon, who has told us there is nothing new under the sun. If the reader will consult a book written by me, entitled Cyclopedic Science Simplified, formerly published by Messrs. Frederick Warne & Co., but now bought and published by Messrs. Lippincott, the great American publishers of Philadelphia, PA, USA, he will find a very near approach to the ghost apparatus copied from Robinson's Recreative Memories published in 1831. The same author describes how the famous magician, so-called, Nostradamus deceived even the astute and wily Marie de Medicis by a vision which appeared in a looking-glass. Moreover, Sir Walter Scott, in his beautiful poem, The Lay of the Last Minstrel, has introduced the use of mirrors for producing ghostly appearances, in the vision seen by the ill-fated Earl of Surrey, in the mirror huge and high of Cornelius, the vision being that fair and lovely form, the Lady Geraldine, verses 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, Canto 6. Before traveling about so much I had a trunk full of letters referring to the ghost illusion, many treating it as a supernatural phenomenon, and not an effect from natural causes. In about 4 months my secretary wrote at least 1,000 letters in answer to those addressed to me. I was offered house property in exchange for the right to exhibit the ghost and a full description of the apparatus on attendance at the Polytechnic to see how things were manipulated. I publish one of the most amusing letters, which has no address or proper signature, but only the initials RC:, whereas the directors and managers of the Polytechnic institution believe and maintain the phenomenon called spirit rapping to be produced by trickery, jugglery, or some natural agency, and to be an imposture. I, the undersigned, on the contrary maintain that there is some non-human agent which moves the tables, chairs, etc., and carries on an intelligent conversation with spectators by knocking, or tilting, or other signs. I am ready to wager from £5 to £50 with anyone who chooses to accept my challenge that the phenomenon shall take place, and that no one present shall be able to detect any sort of trickery or jugglery in the matter. It is to be clearly understood that mere opinions that the thing is done by natural agency are to go for nothing. The natural agency must be proved. On the other hand, I defy anyone to produce the same phenomenon by natural agency without my being able to detect that agency. In making this proposal, I wish it to be distinctly understood that I do not place any trust or confidence in the so-called spirits, as I maintain, in opposition to the whole body of so-called spiritualists, that the intelligent agent which moves the tables, chairs, etc., and converses and answers questions by knocking, is nothing more or less than the evil spirit which dwells in humanity, and is found in every human being. This proposition can be clearly demonstrated. As to the so-called spirits being the souls of the dead, the idea is absurd, and this absurdity also can be made abundantly manifest. This spiritualism is doing an immensity of mischief, and ought to be exposed, but it will never be exposed if people shut their eyes to the fact. It will not be the less a fact, and will not the less impose on all who witness it, because there are men and women who predetermine in their own minds that it cannot be true, and refuse to be convinced by either their senses or their understandings. In all ages there have been deaf adders whom no music could charm, and there are in these days also many who having eyes will not see, and who having ears will not hear. On what grounds does anyone assume as a certainty that such a thing is impossible? Richard Crewin. If anyone is so unwise as to be willing to pay £100 in the event of the phenomenon taking place in his presence, and of his being unable to detect any imposture, I undertake that the medium shall exhibit in any private room, in any home, and with any furniture, provided it be not too heavy, and that the said medium shall submit to be searched both before and after the exhibition. Nothing is easier than to lift a table by means of a concealed apparatus. The knocking also may be produced by means of muscular motion or otherwise. But can anyone lift a table without any apparatus, simply by placing the hand on it, or can anyone contrive an apparatus so cunning that no one present, having full liberty to examine everything, shall be able to detect it? By collusion or otherwise questions also might be answered, but I maintain that the agent in spiritualism can tell all the most secret and hidden things of one's life, and even one's secret thoughts, and also that it understands and can converse in any language. I have verified this by repeated experience. But it will not always speak when it is wanted to speak, and the medium has no power over it to make it answer questions. But the fact that it often tells lies and often refuses to tell anything, does not make void the fact that it does also at times answer every question which one can ask it. It is by this sort of capricious behavior that it succeeds in completely deluding some to trust in it, and others to disbelieve in it altogether. But let a man confine himself at first to the physical phenomenon and try if he can make a table to rise up into the air completely off the ground, simply by placing his hand on it, and without any apparatus whatever. If he cannot do this, and if no human being can do it, let it be acknowledged that there is some non-human agent. A little experience will very soon convince anyone that it is an intelligent, and a wonderfully intelligent, agent, and then it will remain to be considered whether this intelligent agent is good or evil. I say it is evil. R.C. During the year 1863, when the ghost illusion was one of the topics of the day, the famous George Cruikshank wrote a pamphlet, entitled A Discovery Concerning Ghosts, with a rap at the spirit rappers, illustrated with cuts, and dedicated to the Ghost Club. Curious to say, he says nothing respecting the Polytechnic ghost, but is exercised chiefly with famous stories of ghosts and apparitions, which it is alleged have appeared to various persons. The author examines analytically a number of them, and comes to the conclusion that the persons relating them usually deceived themselves or other people, and that most of the stories are mental hallucinations. The inimitable George, as his friends delighted to call him, treats with profound contempt the spirit rappers, and all the cheats and fortune-telling mendicants who try to impose on innocent people with their bad conjuring tricks, people who might have got through the world safely, but the fatal chord is struck, and they go from bad to worse, until they end in a madhouse. The whole tribe of persons who made money directly or indirectly out of what they called spirit mediums, and fairly howled upon me in the lecture room, and, threatening personal violence, I was for some time attended home at night by the most stalwart of our Polytechnic employees, for, like Cruikshank, I vigorously denounced the traders in spirits, founding my arguments on the belief that God was too merciful to us to add to the troubles of this world the fear and trembling brought about by pretended communication with the invisible world. The first story I told at my Polytechnic Strange lecture had a very simple plot. It represented the room of a student who was engaged burning the midnight oil, and, looking up from his work, sees an apparition of a skeleton. Resenting the intrusion, he rises, seizes a sword or a hatchet which is ready to his hand, and aims a blow at the ghost, which instantly disappeared again and again to return. This ghost was admirably performed by my assistant, whom we called Yepuringa, who, wearing a cover of black velvet, held the real skeleton in his arms and made the fleshless bones assume the most elegant attitudes, the lower part from the pelvis downward being attired in white linen, and the white skeleton ghost assuming a sitting posture, so that it appeared to come out of the floor. Although this exhibition only lasted a few minutes, it drew hundreds and thousands of pounds to the treasury of the Polytechnic. In fact, as already stated, I was obliged to remove to the larger theatre of the Institute. The next ghost story was told in the large theatre, and it illustrated Charles Dickens's story of the haunted man. At the same time was shown Cupid and the love letter. When the curtain drew up, a peasant girl was discovered using her spinning wheel and demurely thinking of something not told to the audience. The ghost of a very pretty little boy dressed as Cupid now appears at her elbow, and discharges an arrow from his bow, which pierces the heart of the susceptible village girl. She attempts to caress the pretty Cupid, who eludes her kind advances, and is now discovered on the other side. The maiden turns to kiss him, but he is gone. At last, relenting, Cupid gives her a love letter from some affectionate swain, which she takes and shows triumphantly to the audience, and leaving the girl to read it, the curtain again descended. These two illustrations of the ghost illusion ran for 15 months without alteration, and were succeeded by many others, viz., Scrooge and Marley's Ghost, by Charles Dickens, The Ghost of the Diving Bell, The Knight Watching His Armor, The Poor Author Tested, The Ghost of Napoleon I at St. Helena, and The Ghost in Hamlet, pronounced by a leading RA as being nearly perfect, only wanting a little different color in the walls of the ramparts, which I adopted with his ultimate satisfaction and approval. The late Walter Montgomery took a great interest in the ghost proceedings, and assisted me greatly in arranging the scenes with due regard to the dramatic art. There is a mystery about his tragic end which deserves solution, and his brother-in-law told me at Brisbane, Queensland, that he did not commit suicide, but was shot by somebody else. The sands of the year 1863 had been nearly run out, and I had taken the ghost to Manchester to a lecture hall then under the skillful management of Mr. Peacock, when another great success was scored. Various London theatres took out licenses to use the ghost, notably the Haymarket, under Mr. Benjamin Webster, the Britannia, under Mr. and Mrs. Lane, Drury Lane, under Mr. Chatterton, also subsequently and after the famous ghost trial before the Lord Chancellor. The music halls no longer tried to infringe the patent, but those who required it paid their fees for licenses to do so. The famous ghost trial came on in September at the private residence of the Lord Chancellor Westbury, who very graciously agreed to hear this patent case at once, because his lordship was informed by my solicitor, Mr. Walter Hughes, Jun., that if he could not do so the Polytechnic ghost would most likely be swamped by the multiplicity of imitators, good, bad, or indifferent. Accordingly, one cold and chilly day I went down into Hampshire, accompanied only by my solicitor, Mr. Walter Hughes, Jr., of the firm of Hughes, Masterman and Hughes, 56, New Broad Street. On arrival we were shown into his lordship's drawing room, where, to my dismay, I found a little army of solicitors and barristers drawn up as if in battle array, and sitting in a row against the right-hand wall of the room. His lordship's secretary courteously came forward, and, noticing we were somewhat cold, placed chairs for us near the fire, and pulled up a table for our use on which to take notes. We all rose respectfully when the Lord Chancellor entered, and, being requested by him to remain seated, the case was opened by his lordship asking who appeared for the plaintiffs, the music hall proprietors. At least 4 answered, "I do, my lord," and we in the minority could only give an answer from one voice, viz., that of my then young solicitor. The music hall people came down with 2 newspaper reporters to record their certain victory over me, but which, as it turned out, was a mistake, because the reporters could only tell the truth and record the verdict given in my favor. The Lord Chancellor, so far as I can remember, and I have no notes, then addressed the plaintiffs first. "I shall require you to show cause by what right or authority you appear before me this day. Second, I will hear you on the general merits of the case. Third, and lastly, on the novelty which the defendant seeks to have completed under the protection of a patent, and which novelty you appear to deny." One of the barristers then rose, and after saying that he would bow with submission to anything his lordship might suggest or rule, commenced his argument by calling attention to the fact that the number of days allowed by the patent law had already elapsed, and by section so and so I had lost the opportunity of getting the patent sealed within the proper time allowed between granting provisional protection and sealing the patent. After he had ended, the Lord Chancellor asked if the plaintiffs through their counsel had anything more to urge on this first point. They all bowed, and said no. His lordship now said, "It is very true what you state respecting the wording of the Patent Act, but if you will turn to section so and so you will find that the law officers of the Crown have full power to grant an extension of the time for completing and sealing the patent on the proper application of the defendant's solicitors, and as that application has already been made and granted, it must be evident that, though the defendant exceeded the time usually allowed, he had full permission to do so from the constituted authorities. I will now hear you on the general merits of the case." Here the learned counsel exhausted his law and rhetoric in making out there was really nothing to patent, for who could catch hold of a ghost? And more legal technicalities were advanced and argued than I can remember at this distance of time, viz., 26 years ago. However, his lordship again asked, "Have you anything more to urge on this point?" and received the same reply, "No, my lord, we have not." The Chancellor then replied in extenso, exposed all the sophistries of the arguments, and whilst complimenting the counsel on his learning and the care which he had bestowed upon the case, said again that there was nothing in the arguments that militate against the sealing of the patent. Of course, they could take action at common law, and try the case before the judges appointed to try such cases if they thought proper, and, supported by affidavits resulting from a trial at common law, could bring the case again before him. There was one point which the Lord Chancellor alluded to. He said, great stress had been laid on the impossibility of patenting a mere intangible nothing, viz., a ghost, but as he understood, the defendant did not patent the shadowy result called the ghost, but an apparatus for exhibiting dramatic and other performances, and without this apparatus no ghost could be rendered visible to an audience. His lordship then continued, I will now hear you on the novelty of the proposed invention, which your affidavits declare is not new, but an imitation of something already exhibited. The learned counsel now made various statements, supported apparently by affidavits from persons who alleged that they had seen the ghost a long time before, and, in fact, had used the very same apparatus I had employed or words to that effect. For instance, an old playbill emanating from the old Tivoli Gardens, Margate, not perhaps the most refined place of entertainment. In fact, no ladies appeared to visit the place, say, in 1851, when I heard a lady in tights discourse a song the burthen of which was "Take care, John Bull, or else you'll be done," in the great exhibition of '51. The playbill was laid upon his lordship's table, who, taking hold of it, asked, "Is this the playbill alluded to?" and threw it on the floor. I suppose the counsel was not attending to some point of etiquette, and ought to have produced his playbill in the form of a High Chancery Court affidavit. The playbill alluded to a ghost that was to be shown, and counsel again called attention to their plan of the ghost apparatus, which he was instructed to say was the same or very similar to that used by defendant. The affidavit of some other dramatic professional was also brought forward with several others, but all things come to an end, and at last the same distinct question rang out, "Have you anything more to urge on this question of novelty?" with the answer as before, "No, your lordship." Lord Westbury commenced by alluding to the drawing brought forward by the plaintiffs, and said, "I have examined the affidavit and the drawings, and find it is as nearly as possible a copy of the defendant's own drawing deposited in confidence in the archives of the Patent Office, and when I visit that establishment will take care to inquire who has presumed to allow the plaintiffs permission to copy the defendant's original drawing of the apparatus used to show the ghost. I well remember," continued his lordship, "being taken to the house of Beltzoni, the distinguished traveller, and seeing an effect no doubt somewhat similar to that produced by the defendant's apparatus, but I could not for one moment compare the toy of Beltzoni with the refined and complete contrivances used by the defendant at the Royal Polytechnic. An affidavit has been put in by the plaintiffs, sworn to by a person calling himself a nigger minstrel. He is elsewhere denominated an Ethiopian serenader, who had seen the defendant's ghost shown years ago, a very respectable man, no doubt, in his vocation, but to put the evidence of such a person against the affidavits of Michael Faraday, Sir David Brewster, and Professor Wheatstone, is a manifest absurdity. I, therefore, rule that the Great Seal of England be at once attached to the defendant's patent, and that the plaintiffs do pay the costs." After certifying for the costs and having a little conversation with my solicitor and self, his lordship withdrew, and we all went back to town. The reader can imagine my feelings of joy at the successful upshot of this trial when he learns that I had already received large sums for licenses which I must have refunded if the case had gone against me. For many years the ghost at the Polytechnic pursued its successful career, and earned £12,000 in a comparatively short space of time. I received an illuminated address of thanks, with a handsome honorarium, from the directors, and subsequently they presented my bust in marble to my late dear wife, with a letter from the Reverend J. B. Owen, M.A., the highly gifted chairman of the old Royal Polytechnic. Very few persons could understand how the ghost was produced, although many persons wrote about and explained it. Even the distinguished philosopher, Michael Faraday, when I took him behind the scenes, said, with his usual love of truth, "Do you know, Mr. Pepper, I really don't understand it." I then took his hand, and put it on one of the huge glass plates, when he said, "Ah, now I comprehend it, but your glasses are kept so well protected I could not see them even behind your scenes." Metempsychosis. Since The Ghost was produced at the Polytechnic years ago, the author has visited America, and seen not only the chief cities of the United States of America, but also those of patriotic Canada, and about 10 years ago, paying a casual visit to Messrs. Walker, the eminent organ builders, he inquired of Mr. James Walker what he had done with the model shown him during the height of the popularity of The Ghost, by which an empty glass goblet, or one full of water, was gradually filled with, or changed into, wine, or colored water resembling it, thus unwittingly and apparently embodying or putting into an illustrated form the miracle of the conversion of water into wine. I was too busy and too well paid at the time to think of a new illusion, but I praised it much, and said if not confined to two small stage limits, it was certainly as good, if not better, than the ghost illusion. The time had now arrived when the London world was ready for something new, as commercial men would say, in the ghost line, and although Mr. James Walker, with the modesty of a truly scientific man, disclaimed the merit due to his invention, he did at last, at my request, throw himself, with the author, heart and soul into the production of the new illusion, which we called metempsychosis. We now took out a patent for the new optical wonder, and having thus secured the invention from that piracy and robbery which too often dog the otherwise successful steps of inventors, causing nearly every patent to be called by the legal fraternity a damnasa hereditas, we looked about for a good place, hall or theatre where the illusion could be started. None better could be thought of than the old Royal Polytechnic, where we offered at a moderate sum per week to produce it, paying for every stick, decoration, or engraved looking glass ourselves. But it appeared that the funds of the institution were so reduced, it was supposed, by the immense expenditure on armies, warlike material, and ladies' legs required to produce a work emulating Friend Barnum's gigantic Nero, and called, with an alarming stretch of imagination, The Siege of Troy, or Destruction of Troy, that the directors were unable to guarantee the weekly salary Mr. James Walker and myself demanded. Luckily for us, a percentage on the gross receipts was suggested, and brought in a great deal more money to our exchequer than the modest weekly salary would have given us. The public came in goodly numbers to see the new optical wonder, and all went well as long as the author remained in London and could devote his time and energies to the daily exhibition, but the time was now drawing rapidly near when, according to contract, he must leave for Australia. Professor Pepper has invariably told his numerous patrons that, although obliged to keep secret for a reasonable time all optical illusions that he produced, he would ultimately tell the public all about it. The metempsychosic era at the Polytechnic in 1879 was marked by the production of various stories, which were nicely edited and corrected by a lady of well-balanced, tasteful, and poetic mind, viz., by Miss Walker, the sister of the author's very able coadjutor. The entertainment opened with a vacant stage, disclosing a sort of inner apartment about 12 feet square, tastefully upholstered, and closed by a curtain which could be lowered at pleasure, without interfering with the great roller and white curtain upon which dissolving views were shown. The author's adopted son, for he never had any children of his own, was now seen walking through the inner apartment to the footlights, where he bowed and, addressing the audience, had hardly got as far as the words, "Ladies and gentlemen, I am sorry to inform you that something has detained Professor Pepper," when my voice was heard crying out, "Stop, stop, I am here," and, appearing out of nothing and without the aid of trapdoors or descent by the help of the copper wires, the author stood in the midst, and bowed his acknowledgments for the hearty greeting kindly given him by his audience. The entertainment now proceeded, and, after apologizing for the gloom he was about to cast upon the meeting by the harassing story he was about to relate, finally stated that his subject would be those fearful bags of mystery called sausages, remarking incidentally that though, thanks to government analysts, many persons had heard of the examination and analyses of this dietetic refresher of the inner man, no one probably had ever seen sausages put together again, as it were, and formed into the very animal from which they were originally educed. A large white dish of sausages was now produced. They were placed in a wire basket, such as pot plants are suspended in from windows and verandas, and hung up in the inner chamber. About 1 minute elapsed, the sausages were gone, and out of the basket came the author's dear little sagacious white poodle, with his blue ribbon and little bells, wagging his tail, barking at the audience, and coming down to lick the hand of his master. The poor little creature was accidentally poisoned by eating bits of meat the rats had dropped whilst scuttling to their holes to die of the too rapid poison prepared by the author for those pests of domesticated people. Then the metamorphoses proceeded. Oranges were changed into pots of marmalade, and given away to the boys, and a chest of tea was converted into a tray carrying a steaming teapot, sugar, milk, cups of tea, and handed by the attendants to the ladies in the reserved seats. Only such is the blighting influence of cash, which caused the 1 shilling people to be neglected and the 18-penny reserved seat folks to have their teas. The ghost of Banquo in Macbeth, and the ditto in Hamlet followed, with the curious change of a deserted piano into one at which played and sang a living member of the fair sex, attended by a gentleman in faultless black coat and white tie, who turned over her music, and this part. I wound up with the change of a gentleman into a lady, who walked down to the footlights, sang a song, and then vanished into thin air. But all these changes could only happen in the smaller inner apartment. The actors might walk anywhere else at pleasure, and out of the charmed circle Walker could not change to Pepper, or the latter refer to the living beings when they faded out of sight as regular walkers. So much for what was done, and now the anxious reader is getting impatient, and if a lady is doubtless curious, the poor men never are so, to know how it was all done, and as the illusion has apparently left the domain of optical science and is now relegated to the conjuring profession, the author has no hesitation in fulfilling his long ago promise made to the public to let, as Mr. Creamer, June, says in his most amusing book on conjuring, the cat out of the bag. Before the illusion can please the eyes, the proper apparatus for producing it must be constructed, and the key to the result consists in the use, not of clear plate glass employed in the ghost illusion, but of engraved silvered glass. Ordinary looking glass, such as is used for common mirrors or looking glasses, is usually made by attaching an amalgam of tinfoil and quicksilver to one side of a clean sheet of plate or other glass. Glass prepared in this way cannot be successfully engraved, and when the chisel or other tool is drawn with pressure across it, is liable to chip, and instead of clear, sharp engraved lines being obtained, they are ragged, and, in most cases, large patches of the amalgam are torn off. This is not the case when glass really silvered by successful chemical processes is used, and when pure metallic silver is precipitated onto the surface of the best and flattest plate glass. When Mr. Walker and myself commenced our experiments in March, 1879, the so-called patent silvered glass was expensive and confined to moderate-sized pieces of plate glass. Our first care, therefore, was to construct a table that could be brought by screws to a perfect level, and one that would carry a plate of glass at least 12 feet 6 long by 6 feet 8 wide. Such a plate being most carefully cleaned, and quite free from grease, was placed upon the table, and leveled by means of spirit levels, just as a plate of glass used for the old collodion process would be leveled, in order that the fluid should not run off at one edge, leaving the other comparatively dry. And now came the knotty point, which was the best silvering process to use. On consulting the best records of this art, we found valuable information in the English Mechanic, Volume XXI, number 542. The reader will find the following process very successful if minutely carried out in all its technical details to silver glass. Prepare 2 solutions. 1 argentic nitrate is dissolved in distilled water, and ammonia added to the solution till the precipitate first thrown down is almost entirely redissolved. The solution is filtered and diluted, so that 100 cubic centimeters contain 1 gram of argentic nitrate. N.B 100 cc are equal to rather more than 3½ fluid ounces. 2 grams of argentic nitrate are dissolved in a little distilled water, and poured into a liter of boiling distilled water. 166 gram of Rochelle salt is added, and the mixture boiled for a short time, till the precipitate contained in it becomes gray. It is then filtered hot. The glass, having been thoroughly cleaned with 1. Nitric acid, 2. Water, 3. Caustic potash, 4. Water, 5. Alcohol, and lastly distilled water, is to be placed in a clean glass or porcelain vessel, the side to be silvered being placed uppermost. Equal quantities of the 2 solutions are then to be mixed and poured in, so as to cover the glass. This should be done while the glass is still wet with distilled water. In about an hour the silvering will be completed. Then pour off the exhausted liquid, carefully remove glass, wash in clean water, rub off silver where deposited where not required, allow to dry, and varnish silvered side with any thin varnish which does not contract much in drying. The time required for the operation depends on temperature. If the solutions be warm to about 30 degrees C, the silver is deposited in a few minutes, but it is safer to use them cold. The inside of test tubes, bulbs, and C, are silvered by putting the solutions into them, no second vessel being then required. Throughout the whole operation the most scrupulous cleanliness is the grand essential. 100 cubic centimeters are equal to rather more than 3½ fluid ounces. 1 gram equals 15,432 grains. 1 liter equals 35¼ fluid ounces. The plate of glass being thus carefully silvered is allowed to dry thoroughly, and is finally varnished with a good thick varnish, containing plenty of red lead, so that the back surface of the silver mirror has a smooth and red appearance, while the varnish protects the delicate film of metallic silver. An ordinary photographic picture on glass is really represented by precipitated metallic silver, but the metal in this case is in minute particles, which do not shine or reflect light. The silvered plate glass is now engraved in the following simple manner. Being placed in a support or rack against the wall, and quite upright, a chisel or rather, a series of chisels are drawn across the surface in straight lines, and perpendicular, by the use of a large T-square. Every time the chisel is drawn with pressure across the varnished back of the glass a portion of the silver is removed, leaving a straight line quite clear or transparent, and, in fact, laying bare the surface of the plate glass. The lines were ruled in 3 degrees of comparison, thick, thicker, thickest, and considerable skill and experience which no description can teach were required to get these correctly engraved. ABCD, the plate glass, E straight lines engraved on silvered side and gradually increasing in thickness from E to F. The engraved silver glass plate moved through a groove in the woodwork at the top of the chamber, and was supported below on a beautiful carriage, the wheels of which were covered with vulcanized India rubber rings, and moved on a tramway below the floor of the room, perpendicularly. The glass could be made to slide at an angle of 45 degrees, and as it always made a rumbling noise while moving, the music of the band concealed that defect. The ground plan of the apartment is shown on the opposite page. Some idea of the cost of making a full-sized apparatus, with hangings and curtains and engraved glass, may be gathered from the fact that the author's outfit for Australia with a certain number of dresses cost £327 12s. 1D Whilst the author was travelling through Australia, Mr. James Walker, with his great inventive genius, made a further improvement, by which the concealed figure at K was done away with, and the whole apartment thrown open to the public gaze. This was done to illustrate a clever sketch written by Mr. Burnand called Curried Prawns. Ground plan of chamber. A. Floor of the apartment, B. Groove at an angle of 45 degrees, in which the glass moved. A to C. Groove continued outside of the apartment used when the glass was moved away. EFGH, short flight of 3 or 4 steps, as the room must stand some distance from the floor to allow of carriage moving on tramway. N.B. The groove A to C was concealed from the audience by handsome curtains, which were repeated at the same angle on the other side, from M to DK, place where the objects to be reflected in the looking glass were placed, but quite concealed from the audience, with a door, closed when the exhibition was going on. ACDE are the outside of the room, 12 feet square engraved glass running from HA to AD. The wing EG is placed square. This is an immense advantage, as it renders unnecessary any counterpart at CN, and as, of course, it cannot be seen, the light from the footlights on EG is not seen by reflection at CN. When the wing EG was at the same angle as HA, this was always a weak point in the illusion, as when the glass crossed, the reflection of EG, unless very dimly illuminated, always shewed. Now it does not matter when EG is placed as in drawing. The frontage to the audience, instead of being from AF, is now extended to E, i.e. 12 feet. Consequently the return sides FE and CB can be removed. This plan, of course, precludes the use of trick chairs, baskets, and CNC, but it has a good many other advantages in its favor, for with a sociable in the middle of the room made in 2 exact halves, these halves trick or cover one another when the glass is pushed across, and of course this movement is not seen by the audience. Then any person or persons can be made to appear gradually, sitting or standing, at L or M, right in the middle of the wide open room. Mr. Walker tried this effect at the Polytechnic Institution, and it was capital. The ensemble is more imposing. This plan of shewing the illusion is the plan for the stage, as the necessity for darkening the stage in front is nearly wholly avoided. The back of the side wing IK can be painted black, so that its reflection shall not be seen. In lieu of the gas jets, as now arranged, there is a gas lamp. This is placed on a pedestal or small table. The shadow of the sociable to a great extent covers or hides the path along which the glass travels. Mr. Walker says, I thought out this way for Mr. Irving's necessities, but I did not hear anything from him, and it has come in well for Mr. Burnand's sketch, which has been produced. In this sketch, a gentleman afflicted with dyspepsia through eating curried prawns, the name of the piece, calling on some friends, where he has promised to help them in some amateur theatricals, looks at the different costumes of Mephistopheles, Faust, and Marguerite, and throws them carelessly on the seat at M, walks down the steps, which we shall double in width. The glass now crosses, and, whilst in a fit of melancholy, he wonders if Mephistopheles will appear. Sure enough, he does. Mephistopheles then comes down in front, and with incantations makes, successively or together, Faust and Marguerite appear. They then disappear in the same manner. The author's friends and the public all know how steadily he has opposed the so-called spiritual deceptions, which generally are not a half nor a quarter as clever as the tricks of a first-rate conjurer. Punch instructs us what to do at a spiritual séance, which, if done, would certainly astonish the person performing the part of the materialist spirit. Punch writes how to behave at a spiritual séance. Always try to hit the happy medium. The author thought the time had now arrived when a new generation who knew not the ghost might be interested in its revival, and with that idea the authorities at the present Polytechnic concurred, so that by the time these pages are read it is hoped the ghost will be in full career once more, and if the author only receives a tenth part of the great patronage he received in 1863 he will be amply repaid for all his exertions in reproducing the ghost illusion. And he desires thankfully to acknowledge the very kind help he has received from Robert Mitchell, Esq., the secretary and manager of the numerous classes and useful lectures now so well conducted at Mr. Quinton Hog's Polytechnic. The author hopes to show something new at the Polytechnic, and a lady in miniature, as it were from Lilliput, dances on a silver waiter held out by the author, and the great man Napoleon I, for whom, like Alexander the Great, the world was too small, stands in the palm of the hand of the author. If duffers, &c., did not exist, the illusion would be explained to the public, but 10 years need not elapse before they know all. Finus. Printed by Castle and Company, Limited, La Belle Savage, London, EC. Selections from Castle and Company's publications. Illustrated, Fine Art, and other volumes. Abbeys and Churches of England and Wales, the Descriptive, Historical, Pictorial. 21's Adventure, The World of. Fully illustrated. Yearly Volume 9s. American Authors at Home. Cloth Gilt, Gilt Top, 5s. American Library of Fiction. Crown 8vo, Cloth, 3s. 6d each. The Yoke of the Thora. Carmel the Scout. By Sidney Luska. By Sylvanus Cobb, Jun. Section 558, or, Another's Crime. The Fatal Letter. By Julian Hawthorne. By Julian Hawthorne. Who is John Noman? Veiled Beyond, the. By Charles Henry Beckett. By S. B. Alexander. The Tragedy of Brinkwater. Orion the Gold Beater. By Martha L. Moody. By Sylvanus Cobb, Jun. 89. By Edgar Henry. American Yachts and Yachting. Illustrated. SIXS Arabian Nights Entertainments, Castles Pictorial. 1060. Architectural Drawing. By Fiend Spears. Illustrated. 1060. Art, the Magazine of. Yearly volume with 12 photogravures, etchings, &c., and several hundred choice engravings. 16's Bismarck, Prince. By Charles Lowe, M.A. 2 volumes 10s. 6d Black Arrow, the. A Tale of the Two Roses. By R. L. Stevenson. 5's British Ballads. With 275 original illustrations. 2 volume 7s. 6d each. British Battles on Land and Sea. By James Grant. With about 600 illustrations. 3 volumes, 4 £1 7s, Library Edition, £1 10s. British Battles, Recent. Illustrated. 4 9s, Library Edition, 10s. British Empire, the. By Sir George Campbell, MP3s. Browning, An Introduction to the Study of. By A. Simons. 260. Butterflies and Moths, European. By W. F. Kirby. With 61 colored plates. Demi 4 35s. Canaries and Cage Birds, The Illustrated Book of. With 56 facsimile colored plates, 35s. Half Morocco, £2 5s. Cannibals and Convicts. By Julian Thomas, The Vagabond. 5s Captain Trafalgar. By Westall and Laurie. 5s Castles Family Magazine. Yearly volume illustrated. 9 Celebrities of the Century. 21s, Roxburgh, 25s. Children of the Cold, the by Lieutenant Schwatka. 260. Choice Dishes at Small Cost by A. G. Payne. One's Choice Poems by H. W. Longfellow. Illustrated. Cloth, SIXS. Cities of the World. 4 volumes illustrated. 760. Each. Civil Service, Guide to Employment in the 360. Civil Service Guide to Female Employment in Government Offices. One's Clinical Manuals for Practitioners and Students of Medicine. A list of volumes forwarded post-free on application to the publishers. Clothing, The Influence of, on Health. By F. Treves, FRCS 2s. Color. By Professor A. H. Church. With colored plates. 360. Columbus, Christopher. By Washington Irving. 3 volume 7s. 60. Commerce, The Yearbook of 5's Commodore Junk. By G. Manville Fenn. 5's Cookery, A Year's. By Phyllis Brown. 360. Cookery, Cassell's Dictionary of, containing about 9,000 recipes. 760. Roxburgh, Tens. 60. Cookery, Cassell's Popular. With 4 colored plates. Cloth Gilt, 2s. Cookery, Cassell's Shilling. 384 pages, Limp Cloth, 1s. Countries of the World, the by Robert Brown, M.A., Ph.D., and C. complete in 6 volumes, with about 750 illustrations. 4-7s. 60 each. Cromwell, Oliver. By J. Allinson Picton, MP5s. Culmshire Folk. By the author of John Orlebar, and C3s. 60 Cyclopedia, Cassell's Concise. With 12,000 subjects, brought down to the latest date. With about 600 illustrations, 15s, Roxburgh, 18s. Cyclopedia, Cassell's Miniature. Containing 30,000 subjects. 360. Dairy Farming. By Professor J. P. Sheldon. With 25 colored plates. 21's Dead Man's Rock. A Romance. By Q5s. Dickens, Character Sketches from First, Second, and Third Series. With 6 original drawings in each by F. Barnard. In portfolio, 21s. Each. Dog, Illustrated Book of the by Vero Shaw, B.A. With 28 colored plates. Cloth Beveled, 35s, Half Morocco, 45s. Dog Stories and Dog Lore. By Colonel Thus W. Knox. SIXS Dog, the by Idstone. Illustrated. 260. Domestic Dictionary, the Illustrated. Cloth, 7s. 60 Dory Gallery, the with 250 illustrations by Dory. 42s. Dory S. Dante's Inferno. Illustrated by Gustave Dory. 21's Dory S. Dante's Purgatorio and Paradiso. Illustrated by Dory. 21's Dory S. Fairy Tales Told Again. With engravings by Dory. 5's Dory S. Milton's Paradise Lost. Illustrated by Dory. 21s. Earth, R, and Its Story. By Dr. Robert Brown, FLS. With colored plates and numerous wood engravings. 3 volumes 9s. Each. Edinburgh, Old and New. With 600 illustrations. 3 volumes 9s. Each. Egypt, Descriptive, Historical, and Picturesque. By Professor G. Ebers. With 800 original engravings. Popular edition. In 2 volumes 42s. 89 a novel. By Edgar Henry. Cloth, 3s. 60 Electricity, Age of. By Park Benjamin, Ph.D. 7s. 60 Electricity, Practical. By Professor W. E. Ayrton. 760. Encyclopedic Dictionary, a new and original work of reference to all the words in the English language. Complete in 14 divisional volumes, 10s. 60 each, or 7 volumes, half Morocco, 21s. Each, half Russia, 25s. England, Cassell's Illustrated History of. With 2,000 illustrations. 10 volumes, 4/9s. Each. Revised edition. Volumes I, 2, and 3, 9s. Each. English History, The Dictionary of. Cheap edition. 1060. English Literature, Dictionary of. By W. Davenport Adams. Cheap edition, 7s. 60, Roxburgh, 10s. 60 English Literature, Library of. By Professor Henry Morley. Volume I Shorter English Poems. 760. Volume 2 Illustrations of English Religion. 760. Volume 3 English Plays. 760. Volume 4 Shorter Works in English Prose. 760. Volume V Sketches of Longer Works in English Verse and Prose. 760. English Literature, Morley's First Sketch of. Revised edition, 7s. 60 English Literature, The Story of. By Anna Buckland. 360. English Writers. By Professor Henry Morley. Volumes I to V5s. Each. Aesop's Fables. Illustrated throughout by Ernest Grizzett. Cheap edition. Cloth, 3s. 60 Etching. By S. K. Kohler. With 30 full-page plates. £4 4s. Etiquette of Good Society. 1s, Cloth, 1s. 60 Europe, Pocket Guide to, Castles. Leather. SIXSI, Ear and Throat, The Management of the. 360. Family Physician, by eminent physicians and surgeons. New and Revised Edition. Cloth, 21s, Roxburgh, 25s. Fenn, G. Manville, Works by. Picture Boards, 2s. Each, or Cloth, 2s. 60 each. My Patients. Being the Parson O. Dumford. Notes of a Navy Surgeon. The Vicar's People. In Cloth Dutch the Diver. Sweet Mace. Only. Poverty Corner. Ferns, European. By James Britton, FLS. With 30 facsimile colored plates by D. Blair, FLS 21s. Field Naturalist's Handbook, by the Reverend J. G. Wood and Theodore Wood. 5s Figures Popular Scientific Works. With several hundred illustrations in each. 360. Each. The Human Race. The Ocean World. World Before the Deluge. The Vegetable World. Reptiles and Birds. The Insect World. Mammalia. Fine Art Library, edited by John Sparks, Principal of the South Kensington Art Schools. Each book contains about 100 illustrations. 5s each. Engraving. The education of the artist. Tapestry. Non-illustrated. The English School of Painting. Greek Archaeology. The Flemish School of Painting. Artistic Anatomy. The Flemish School of Painting. Flora's Feast, a Mask of Flowers. With colored designs by Walter Crane. 5's Flower Painting in Watercolors. With colored plates. First and second series. 5s each. Flower Painting, Elementary. With 8 colored plates. 3's Flowers, and How to Paint Them. By Maud Naftal. With colored plates. 5's Forging of the Anchor, a Poem. By Sir Samuel Ferguson, LL.D. With 20 original illustrations. Gilt Edges, 5's. Fossil Reptiles, A History of British. By Sir Richard Owen, KCB, FRS, NC. With 268 plates. In 4 volumes, £12 12s. France as It Is. By André Lebon and Paul Pillet. With 3 maps. Crown 8 VO, cloth, 7s. 6d Franco-German War, Castle's History of the 2 volumes with 500 illustrations. 9s each. Freshwater Fishes of Europe, by Professor H. G. Seeley, FRS Cheap Edition. 760. Garden Flowers, Familiar. By Shirley Hibbard. With colored plates by F. E. Hume, FLS complete in 5 series. 1260. Each. Gardening, Castle's Popular. Illustrated. 4 volumes, 5s. Each. Geometrical Drawing for Army Candidates. By H. T. Lilly, MA2s. Geometry, First Elements of Experimental. By Paul Bird. 160. Geometry, Practical Solid. By Major Ross. 2s Germany, William of. By Archibald Forbes. Cloth, 3s. 6d Gladstone, Life of W.E. By G. Barnett Smith. With portrait. 360. Gleanings from Popular Authors. 2 volumes with original illustrations. 4 9s. Each. 2 volumes in 1, 15s. Great Painters of Christendom, From Cimabue to Wilkie. By John Forbes Robertson. Illustrated throughout. 1260. Gulliver's Travels. With 88 engravings by Morton. Cheap Edition. Cloth, 3s. 6d, Cloth Gilt, 5s. Gumboughs and Wattle Bloom, Gathered on Australian Hills and Plains. By Donald MacDonald. 5's Gun and Its Development, by W. W. Greener. With 500 illustrations. 1060. Guns, Modern Shot. By W. W. Greener. Illustrated. 5's Gunmaker of Moscow, by Sylvanus Cobb, Jr. 360. Health at School. By Clement Dukes, M.D., B.S. 7s. 6d Health, The Book of. By eminent physicians and surgeons. Cloth, 21s, Roxburgh, 25s. Health, The Influence of Clothing on. By F. Treves, FRGS 2s. Heavens, The Story of the. By Sir Robert Stawell Ball, Doctor of Laws, FRS, FRAS. With colored plates and wood engravings. 3160. Heroes of Britain in Peace and War. in 2 volumes, with 300 original illustrations. 5s each, or 1 volume, library binding, 10s. 60 Homes, are, and how to make them healthy. By eminent authorities. Illustrated. 15s, Roxburgh, 18s. Horse, The Book of the. By Samuel Sidney. With 28 facsimile colored plates. Enlarged edition. Demi 42, 35s, half Morocco, 45s. Household, Cassell's Book of the. Volume I5s. Household Guide, Cassell's. Illustrated. 4 volumes, 20s. How Dante Climbed the Mountain. By Rose E. Self. Illustrated, 2s. How Women May Earn a Living. By Mercy Grogan. 6d India, Cassell's History of. By James Grant. With about 400 illustrations. Library binding. 1 volume 15s. Indoor amusements, card games, and fireside fun, Cassell's Book of. Illustrated. 360. Irish Parliament, the, What It Was and What It Did. By J. G. Swift McNeill, M.A., MP1s. Irish Union, the, Before and After. By A. K. Connell, M.A.2s. 60 John Parmalee's Curse. By Julian Hawthorne. 260. Carmel the Scout. A Novel. By Sylvanus Cobb, Genre. Cloth, 3s. 60 Kennel Guide, The Practical. By Dr. Gordon Stables. Oneskava, A Ride to. By Colonel Fred Burnaby. 160. Kidnapped. By R. L. Stevenson. Illustrated edition. 5s King Solomon's Mines. By H. Rider Haggard. Illustrated edition. 5s Lady's Physician, the. A Guide for Women in the Treatment of Their Ailments. By a Physician. Sixs Lady Biddy Fane, The Admirable. By Frank Barrett. Crown 8 VO, 5s. Landscape Painting in Oils, A Course of Lessons in. By A. F. Grace. With 9 reproductions in color. Cheap edition, 25s. Law, How to Avoid. By A. J. Williams, MP1s. Cheap edition. Legends for Lionel. By Walter Crane. Colored illustrations. 5s Letz's diaries and other time-saving publications are now published exclusively by Cassell & Company. A list free on application. Life Assurance, Medical Handbook of. By James Edward Pollock, MD, and James Chisholm. 760. Local Government in England and Germany. By the Right Honourable Sir Robert Moyer, GCB, and C1s. London, Ancient and Modern. From the Sanitary and Medical Point of View. By G. V. Poor, MD, FRCP Illustrated. 5s London, Greater. By Edward Walford. 2 volumes with about 400 illustrations. 9s each. London, Old and New. 6 volumes, each containing about 200 illustrations and maps. Cloth, 9s. Each. Longfellow's Poetical Works. Illustrated, £3 3s, Popular Edition, 16s. Master of Ballantrae, the. By Robert Louis Stevenson. 5s Mechanics, The Practical Dictionary of. Containing 15,000 drawings. 4 volumes 21s. Each. Medicine, Manuals for Students of. A list forwarded post-free. Metropolitan Yearbook, the. Paper, 2s, cloth, 2s. 6d Milton's El Allegro and I El Penseroso. Fully illustrated. Cloth, 2s. 6d Modern Europe, A History of. By C.A. Fife, M.A. complete in 3 volumes 12s. Each. Music, Illustrated History of. By Emil Naumann. Edited by the Reverend Sir F. A. Goresley, Bart. Illustrated. 2 volumes 31s. 6d National Library, Cassels. In volumes, each containing about 192 pages. Paper covers, 3D, cloth, 6D. A list of the volumes already issued will be sent post-free on application. Natural History, Cassels Concise. By E. Perceval Wright, M.A., M.D., F.L.S. With several hundred illustrations. 760. Natural History, Cassels New. Edited by Professor P. Martin Duncan, M.B., F.R.S., F.G.S. complete in 6 volumes with about 2,000 illustrations. Cloth, 9s. Each. Nursing for the Home and for the Hospital, A Handbook of. By Catherine J. Wood. Cheap edition. 160, cloth, 2s. Nursing of Sick Children, A Handbook for the. By Catherine J. Wood. 260. Oil Painting, A Manual of. By the Honorable John Collier. 260. Orion the Gold Beater. A Novel. By Sylvanus Cobb, Jun. Cloth, 3s. 6d Our Own Country. 6 volumes with 1,200 illustrations. 760. Each. Painting, Practical Guides to. With colored plates and full instructions Marine Painting. 5's Tree Painting. 5's Animal Painting. 5's Watercolor Painting. 5's China Painting. 5's Neutral Tint. 5's Figure Painting. 760. Sepia, in 2 volumes, 3s. Each, Elementary Flower Painting. 3s or in 1 volume, 5s. Flower Painting, 2 books, 5s. Each. Flowers, and How to Paint Them. 5's Paris, Cassels Illustrated Guide to. Cloth, 2s. Paxton's Flower Garden. By Sir Joseph Paxton and Professor Lindley. 3 volumes with 100 colored plates. £1 ones. Each. People I've Smiled With. By Marshall P. Wilder. 2s, cloth, 2s. 60 Peoples of the World, the. In 6 volumes by Dr. Robert Brown. Illustrated. 760. Each. Phantom City, the. By W. Westall. 5's Photography for Amateurs. By T. C. Hepworth. Illustrated. 1s, or cloth, 1s. 6d Phrase and Fable, Dictionary of. By the Reverend Dr. Brewer. Cheap edition, enlarged, cloth, 3s. 6d, or with leather back, 4s. 6d Picturesque America. Complete in 4 volumes, with 48 exquisite steel plates and about 800 original wood engravings. £2 2s. Each. Picturesque Canada. With 600 original illustrations. 2 volumes £3 3s. Each. Picturesque Europe. Complete in 5 volumes each containing 13 exquisite steel plates, from original drawings, and nearly 200 original illustrations. Original edition. Cloth, £21, half Morocco, £31 10s, Morocco gilt, £52 tens. The popular edition is published in 5 volumes, 18s. Each. Pigeon Keeper, The Practical. By Lewis Wright. Illustrated. 360. Pigeons, The Book of. By Robert Fulton. Edited and arranged by L. Wright. With 50 colored plates, 31s. 60, Half Morocco, £2 twos. Poets, Cassell's Miniature Library of the Burns. 2 volumes twos. 60 Milton. 2 volumes twos. 60 Byron. 2 volumes twos. 60 Scott. 2 volumes twos. 60 Hood. 2 volumes twos. 60 Sheridan and Goldsmith. 2 volumes twos. 60 Longfellow. 2 volumes twos. 60 Wordsworth. 2 volumes twos. 60 Shakespeare. Illustrated. In 12 volumes, in case, 12s. Police Code, and Manual of the Criminal Law. By C. E. Howard Vincent, MP2s. Poor Relief in Foreign Countries, N.C. By Louisa Twining. One's Popular Library, Cassell's. Cloth, ones. Each. The Russian Empire. The Story of the English Jacobins. The Religious Revolution. Domestic Folklore. In the 16th Century. The Reverend Rowland Hill, Preacher and Wit. English Journalism. Boswell and Johnson, their companions are Colonial Empire. And Contemporaries. John Wesley. History of the Free Trade Movement. The Young Man in England. Battle of Life. Post Office of 50 Years Ago, the One's Poultry Keeper, The Practical. By Lewis Wright. With colored plates and illustrations. 360. Poultry, The Book of. By Lewis Wright. Popular Edition. 1060. Poultry, The Illustrated Book of. By Lewis Wright. With 50 colored plates. Cloth, 31s. 60, Half Morocco, £2 twos. Pre-Raphaelites, The Italian, in the National Gallery. By Cosmo Monkhouse. Illustrated. One's Printing Machinery and Letterpress Printing, Modern. By J. F. Wilson and Douglas Gray. Illustrated. 21's Queen Victoria, The Life and Times of. By Robert Wilson. Complete in 2 volumes with numerous illustrations. 9s each. Queer Race, A. By W. Westall. 5's Quiver, the yearly volume. Illustrated. 760. Rabbit Keeper, The Practical. By Cuniculus. Illustrated. 360. Railway Guides, Official Illustrated. With illustrations, maps, and C. Price 1s, Cloth, 2s. Great Northern Railway. Great Western Railway. New, Revised, and Enlarged Edition. London, Brighton and South Coast Railway. London and North Western Railway. New, Revised, and Enlarged Edition. London and South Western Railway. Midland Railway. South Eastern Railway. Railway Library, Cassell's. Crown 8vo, boards, 2s. Each. Dead Man's Rock by Q. A Queer Race. By W. Westall. Captain Trafalgar. By Westall and Laurie. The Phantom City. By W. Westall. Another's Crime. By Julian Hawthorne. The Yoke of the Thora. By Sidney Luska. Who is John Noman? By Charles Henry Beckett. The Tragedy of Brinkwater. By Martha L. Moody. An American Penman. By Julian Hawthorne. Section 558, or, The Fatal Letter. By Julian Hawthorne. The Brownstone Boy. By W. H. Bishop. A Tragic Mystery. By Julian Hawthorne. The Great Bank Robbery. By Julian Hawthorne. Representative Poems of Living Poets American and English. Selected by the poets themselves. 15th Richard, Henry, M.P. A Biography. By Charles S. Meall. 760. Rivers of Great Britain, the descriptive, historical, pictorial rivers of the East Coast. With numerous highly finished engravings. Royal Fortu, with etching as frontispiece, 42s. Rossetti, Dante Gabriel, as designer and writer. Notes by William Michael Rossetti. 760. Royal River, the Thames, from source to sea. With descriptive text and a series of beautiful engravings. £2 twos. Russia. By Sir Donald Mackenzie Wallace, M.A. 5s. Russia, Truth About. By W. T. Stead. 8 VO, Cloth, 10s. 60 Russo-Turkish War, Castle's History of. With about 500 illustrations. 2 volumes, 9s. Each. Red Library, Castles. Stiff covers, 1s. Each, cloth, 2s. Each. The Prairie. Night and Morning. Kenilworth. The Ingoldsby Legends. The Tower of London. The Pioneers. Charles O'Malley. Barnaby Rudge. Cakes and Ale. The King's Own. People I Have Met. The Pathfinder. Evelina. Scott's Poems. Last of the Barons. Adventures of Mr. Ledbury. Ivanhoe. Oliver Twist. Selections from Hood's works. Longfellow's prose works. Sense and Sensibility. Lytton's plays. Tales, poems, and sketches. Bret Harte. Martin Chuzzlewit, 2 volumes. The Prince of the House of David. Sheridan's Plays. Uncle Tom's Cabin. Deerslayer. Eugene Aram. Jack Hinton. Rome and the Early Christians. The Trials of Margaret Lindsay. Poe's Works. Old Mortality. The Hour and the Man Handy Andy. Scarlet Letter. Pickwick, 2 volumes. Last of the Mohicans. Pride and Prejudice. Yellow Plush Papers. Tales of the Borders. Last Days of Palmyra. Washington Irving's Sketchbook. The Talisman. Rienzi. Old Curiosity Shop. Heart of Midlothian. Last Days of Pompeii. American Humor. Sketches by Boz. Macaulay's Lays and Essays. Harry Laurie Kayer. Saturday Journal, Castles. Yearly Volume, Cloth, 7s. 6D Science for All. Edited by Dr. Robert Brown. Revised edition. Illustrated. 5 volumes 9s. Each. Science of Everyday Life. By John A. Bauer, FCS Illustrated. 1 Sculpture, a Primer of. By E. Roscoe Mullins. With illustrations. 260. C. Its Stirring Story of Adventure, Peril, and Heroism. By F. Whymper. With 400 illustrations. 4 volumes, 7s. 6d each. Secret of the Llamas, A Tale of Thibet. Crown 8 VO, 5s. Shaftesbury, the 7th Earl of, K.G., The Life and Work of. By Edwin Hodder. 3 volumes, 30 SIXS. Popular edition, 1 volume, 7s. 6d Shakespeare, Cassell's quarto edition. Containing about 600 illustrations by H. C. Sillis. Complete in 3 volumes, cloth gilt, £3 3s. Shakespeare, miniature. Illustrated. In 12 volumes, in box, 12s, or in red paste grain, box to match, with spring catch, 21s. Shakespeare, The England of. By E. Godby. Illustrated. 260. Shakespeare, The International. Edition Deluxe. King Henry IV. Illustrated by Edward Grutzner, £3 10s. As You Like It. Illustrated by Emile Bayard, £3 10s. Romeo and Juliet. Illustrated by F. Dixie, ARA, £5 5s. Shakespeare, The Leopold. With 400 illustrations. Cheap edition. 360. Cloth gilt, 6s, Roxburgh, 7s. 6d Shakespeare, The Royal. With steel plates and wood engravings. 3 volumes 15s. Each. Short Studies from Nature. Illustrated. Cheap edition. 260. Sketching from Nature in Watercolors. By Aaron Penley. With illustrations in chromolithography. 15 Skin and Hair, The Management of the. By M. Morris, FRCS 2s. Social Welfare, Subjects of. By the RT Honorable Sir Leon Playfair, KCB 7s. 6d Splendid Spur, The. Edited by Q5s. Sports and Pastimes, Cassell's Complete Book of. Cheap edition. With more than 900 illustrations. Medium 8 VO, 992 pages, cloth, 3s. 6d Starland. By Sir Robert Stawell Ball, Doctor of Laws, FRS, FRAS Illustrated. Crown 8 VO, SIXS. Steam Engine, The. By W. H. Northcote, CE3s. 6d Stock Exchange Yearbook, The. By Thomas Skinner. 15 Sunlight and Shade. With numerous exquisite engravings. 760. Surgery, Memorials of the Craft of, in England. With an introduction by Sir James Paget. 21's Technical Education. By F. C. Montague. 6d Thackeray, Character Sketches from. 6 new and original drawings by Frederick Barnard, reproduced in photogravure. 21's Town Leaseholds. Pros and Cons of Leasehold Enfranchisement. 6d Treasure Island. By R. L. Stevenson. Illustrated. 5's Treatment, The Yearbook of. 5's Trees, Familiar. By G. S. Bulger, FLS. 2 series. With 40 full-page colored plates by W. H. J. Boot. 1260. Each. Triumphs of Engineering. With 8 full-page illustrations. 5's Troy Town, The Astonishing History of. By Q5s. Unicode, The Universal Telegraphic Phrase Book. Desk or Pocket Edition. 260. United States, Cassell's History of the. By the late Edmund Ollier. With 600 illustrations. 3 volumes 9s. Each. United States, Youth's History of the. Illustrated. 4 volumes. 30 SIXS Universal History, Cassels Illustrated. 4 volumes 9s. Each. Vaccination Vindicated. By John McVale, MD, DPH Cam. Fives Veiled Beyond, A Novel. By S.B. Alexander. Cloth, 3s. 6d Vicar of Wakefield and Other Works by Oliver Goldsmith. Illustrated. 360, Cloth, Gilt Edges, 5s. What Girls Can Do. By Phyllis Brown. 260. Wild Birds, Familiar. By W. Swaysland. 4 series. With 40 colored plates in each. 1260. Each. Wildflowers, Familiar. By F. E. Hume, FLS, FSA 5 series. With 40 colored plates in each. 1260. Each. Wise Woman, By George MacDonald. 260. Woman's World, Yearly Volume. 18's Wordsworth's Ode on Immortality, and Lines on Tintern Abbey. Fully Illustrated. Cloth, 2s. 6d World of Wit and Humor, with 400 illustrations. Cloth, 7s. 6d, Cloth Gilt, Gilt Edges, 10s. 6d World of Wonders. 2 volumes with 400 illustrations. 760. Each. Yuletide. Cassell's Christmas Annual, 1s. Illustrated Magazines. The Quiver. Enlarged Series. Monthly, 6d. Cassell's Family Magazine. Monthly, 7d. Little Folks Magazine. Monthly, 6d. The Magazine of Art. Monthly, 1s. The Woman's World. Monthly, 1s. Cassell's Saturday Journal. Weekly, 1d, monthly, 6d. Work. Weekly, 1d, monthly, 6d. Catalogs of Cassell and Company's publications, which may be had at all booksellers, or will be sent you free on application to the publishers. Cassell's Complete Catalog, containing particulars of upwards of 1,000 volumes. Cassell's Classified Catalog, in which their works are arranged according to price, from 3d to 50 guineas. Cassell's Educational Catalog, containing particulars of Cassell and Company's educational works and students' manuals. Bibles and religious works. Bible, Cassell's Illustrated Family. With 900 illustrations. Leather, Gilt Edges, £2.10s. Bible Dictionary, Cassell's. With nearly 600 illustrations. 760. Bible Educator, edited by the Very Reverend Dean Plumptre, D.D., Wells. With illustrations, maps, and 4 volumes, cloth, SIXS. Each. Bible Student in the British Museum, by the Reverend J. G. Kitchen, M.A. 1s. Bible Women and Nurses. Yearly Volume. Illustrated. 3's Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress, Cassell's Illustrated. 4 to 7s. 6d Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress. With illustrations. Cloth, 3s. 6d Child's Bible, with 200 illustrations. 150,000. 760. Child's Life of Christ, with 200 illustrations. 760. Come, Ye Children. Illustrated. By Reverend Benjamin Waugh. 5-Story Bible. With 238 illustrations by Gustave Doré. Small folio, cloth, 8 pounds, Best Morocco, gilt edges, 15 pounds. Early Days of Christianity, by the Venerable Archdeacon Farrar, D.D., FRS Library Edition. 2 volumes, 24s, Morocco, 2 pounds 2s. Popular Edition. Complete in 1 volume, cloth, 6s, cloth, gilt edges, 7s. 6d, Persian Morocco, 10s. 6d, Tree Calf, 15s. Family Prayer Book, edited by Reverend Canon Garbutt, M.A., and Reverend S. Martin. Extra Crown 4-2, cloth, 5s, Morocco, 18s. Geikie, Cunningham, D.D., Works by the Holy Land and the Bible. 2 volumes, Demai 8 VO 24s. The Life and Words of Christ. Illustrated edition 2 volumes, 30s. Glories of the Man of Sorrows, the Sermons Preached at St. James's, Piccadilly. By Reverend H. G. Bonavia Hunt, MUSD, FRS, ed. 2s. 6d Hartchords. A series of works by eminent divines. Bound in cloth, red edges, 1 shilling each. My Bible. By the Right Reverend W. Boyd Carpenter, Bishop of Ripon. My Father. By the Right Reverend Ashton Oxenden, late Bishop of Montreal. My Work for God. By the Right Reverend Bishop Cotterill. My Object in Life. By the Venerable Archdeacon Farrar, D.D. My Aspirations. By the Reverend G. Matheson, D.D. My Emotional Life. By the Reverend Preb. Chadwick, D.D. My Body. By the Reverend Professor W. G. Blakey, D.D. My Growth in Divine Life. By the Reverend Preb. Reynolds, M.A. My Soul. By the Reverend P. B. Power, M.A. My Hereafter. By the Very Reverend Dean Bickersteth. My Walk with God. By the Very Reverend Dean Montgomery. My Aids to the Divine Life. By the Very Reverend Dean Boyle. My Sources of Strength. By the Reverend E. E. Jenkins, M.A., Secretary of Wesleyan Missionary Society. Helps to Belief. A series of helpful manuals on the religious difficulties of the day. Edited by the Reverend Teignmouth Shore, M.A., Chaplain in Ordinary to the Queen. Cloth, 1s. Each. Creation. By the Lord Bishop of Carlisle. The Divinity of our Lord. By the Lord Bishop of Derry. The Morality of the Old Testament. By the Reverend Newman Smith, D.D. Miracles. By the Reverend Brownlow Maitland, M.A. Prayer. By the Reverend T. Teignmouth Shore, M.A. The Atonement. By the Lord Bishop of Peterborough. I Must. Short Missionary Bible Readings. By Sophia M. Nugent. Enameled covers, 6d, cloth, gilt edges, 1s. Life of Christ, by the Venerable Archdeacon Farrar, D.D., FRS Illustrated Edition, with about 300 original illustrations. Extra Crown 4-2, cloth, gilt edges, 21s, Morocco Antique, 42s. Library Edition. 2 volumes cloth, 24s, Morocco, 42s. Popular Edition, in 1 volume 8 VO, cloth, 6s, cloth, gilt edges, 7s. 6d, Persian Morocco, gilt edges, 10s. 6d, Tree Calf, 15s. Marriage Ring, by William Landels, D.D. bound in white leather at, gilt edges, in box, 6s, French Morocco, 8s. 60 Moses and Geology, or, The Harmony of the Bible with Science. By the Reverend Samuel Kins, Ph.D., FRAS Illustrated. Cheap edition, SIXS. New Testament Commentary for English Readers, the edited by the RT Reverend C.J. Ellicott, D.D., Lord Bishop of Gloucester and Bristol. In 3 volumes, 21s. Each. Volume I the 4 Gospels. Volume 2 the Acts, Romans, Corinthians, Galatians. Volume 3 the remaining books of the New Testament. Old Testament Commentary for English Readers, the edited by the Right Reverend C.J. Ellicott, D.D., Lord Bishop of Gloucester and Bristol. Complete in 5 volumes, 21s. Each. Volume I Genesis to Numbers. Volume 3 Kings I to Esther. Volume 2 Deuteronomy to Volume 4 Job to Isaiah. Samuel 2. Volume V Jeremiah to Malachi. Protestantism, The History of. By the Reverend J. A. Wiley, Doctor of Laws, containing upwards of 600 original illustrations. 3 volumes, 9s. Each. Quiver Yearly Volume, the 250 high-class illustrations. 760. Religion, The Dictionary of. By the Reverend W. Benham, B.D. 21s, Roxburgh, 25s. St. George for England, and Other Sermons Preached to Children. By the Reverend T. Mouthshore, M.A. 5s. St. Paul, The Life and Work of. By the Venerable Archdeacon Farrar, D.D., F.R.S., Chaplain in Ordinary to the Queen. Library Edition. 2 volumes, cloth, 24s, calf, 42s. Illustrated Edition, complete in 1 volume, with about 300 illustrations, £1 1s, Morocco, £2 2s. Popular Edition. 1 volume, 8 vo, cloth, 6s, cloth, gilt edges, 7s. 60, Persian Morocco, 10s. 60, Tree Calf, 15s. Secular Life, The Gospel of the Sermons Preached at Oxford. By the Honourable Canon Fremantle. Cheaper edition. 260. Shall We Know One Another? By the RT Reverend J.C. Ryle, D.D., Bishop of Liverpool. New and enlarged edition. Cloth limp, 1s. Stromata. By the Venerable Archdeacon Sheringham, M.A. 2s. 60 Sunday, Its Origin, History, and Present Obligation. By the Venerable Archdeacon Hesse, DCL 5th edition. 760. Twilight of Life, The Words of Counsel and Comfort for the Aged. By the Reverend John Ellerton, M.A. 1s. 60 Voice of Time, The by John Stroud. Cloth Gilt, 1s. Educational Works and Students' Manuals. Alphabet, Cassell's Pictorial. 360. Arithmetics, The Modern School. By George Ricks, B.Sc. London. With test cards. List on application. Bookkeeping. By Theodore Jones. 4 schools, 2s, cloth, 3s. For the Million, 2s, cloth, 3s. Books for Jones's System. 2s Chemistry, The Public School. By J. H. Anderson, M.A. 2s. 6d Commentary, Old Testament. Edited by Bishop Ellicott. Handy Volume Edition. Genesis, 3s. 6d Exodus, 3s. Leviticus, 3s. Numbers, 2s. 6d Deuteronomy, 2s. 6d Commentary, The New Testament. Edited by Bishop Ellicott. St. Matthew, 3s. 6d St. Mark, 3s. St. Luke, 3s. 6d St. John, 3s. 6d The Acts of the Apostles, 3s. 6d Romans, 2s. 6d Corinthians IN 2, 3s. Galatians, Ephesians, and Philippians, 3s. Colossians, Thessalonians, and Timothy, 3s. Titus, Philemon, Hebrews, and James, 3s. Peter, Jude, and John, 3s. The Revelation, 3s. An Introduction to the New Testament, 3s. 6d Copy Books, Cassels graduated. 18 books. 2d each. Copy Books, The Modern School. 12 books. 2d each. Drawing Copies, Cassels Modern School Freehand. First grade, 1s, second grade, 2s. Drawing Copies, Cassels New Standard. 14 books. Books A to F for Standards I to 4, 2d. Each. Books G, H, K, L, M, O, for Standards V to 7, 3d. Each. Books N and P, 4d. Each. Electricity, Practical. By Professor W. E. Ayrton. 760. Energy and Motion. By William Payas, M.A. Illustrated. 160. English Literature, First Sketch of. New and Enlarged Edition. By Professor Morley. 760. English Literature, The Story of. By Anna Buckland. 360. Euclid, Cassels. Edited by Professor Wallace, M.A. Ones. Euclid, the first 4 books of. In paper, 6d, cloth, 9d. Experimental Geometry. By Paul Bird. Illustrated, ones. 6d French, Cassels Lessons in. New and Revised Edition. Parts I and 2, each 2s. 6d, Complete, 4s. 6d Key, 1s. 6d French English and English French Dictionary. Entirely new and enlarged edition. 1150 pages, 8 vo, cloth, 3s. 6d French Reader, Cassels Public School. By G. S. Conrad. 260. Galbraith and Haughton's Scientific Manuals. By the Reverend Professor Galbraith, M.A., and the Reverend Professor Haughton, M.D., DCL Plane Trigonometry, 2s. 6d Euclid, Books I, 2, 3, 2s. 6d Books 4, v, 6, 2s. 6d Mathematical Tables, 3s. 6d Mechanics, 3s. 6d Natural Philosophy, 3s. 6d Optics, 2s. 6d Hydrostatics, 3s. 6d Astronomy, 5s Steam Engine, 3s. 6d Algebra, Part I, Cloth, 2s. 6d, Complete, 7s. 6d Tides and Tidal Currents, with Tidal Cards, 3s. German Dictionary, Cassels New. German English, English German. Cloth, 7s.6d, Half Morocco, 9s. German of Today. By Dr. Heinemann. 160. German Reading, First Lessons in. By Ajaxed. Illustrated. One's Hand and Eye Training. By G. Rix, B.Sc. 2 volumes, with 16 colored plates in each volume. Crown 42, 6 each. Handbook of New Code of Regulations. New and Revised Edition. By John F. Moss. 1s, Cloth, 2s. Historical Cartoons, Cassels Colored. Size 45 inches. Times 35 inches, 2s. Each. Mounted on canvas and varnished, with rollers, 5s. Each. Historical Course for Schools, Cassels. Illustrated throughout. Stories from English History, 1s. 2. The Simple Outline of English History, 1s. 3d3 The Class History of England, 2s. 6d Latin English and English Latin Dictionary. By J. R. Beard, D.D., and C. Beard, B.A. Crown 8vo, 914 pages, 3s. 6d Latin English Dictionary, Cassels. By J. R. V. Marchant, 3s. 6d Latin Primer, The New. By Professor J. P. Postgate. Crown 8vo, 2s. 6d Laws of Everyday Life. By H. O. Arnold Forster. 160. Little Folks' History of England. Illustrated. 160. Making of the Home, a Book of Domestic Economy for School and Home Use. By Mrs. Samuel A. Barnett. 160. Marlborough Books Arithmetic Examples, 3s. Arithmetic Rules, 1s. 6d French Exercises, 3s. 6d French Grammar, 2s. 6d German Do, 3s. 6d Mechanics and Machine Design, Numerical Examples in Practical. By R. G. Blaine, M.E. With diagrams. Cloth, 2s. 6d Model Joint Wall Sheets, for instruction in manual training. By S. Barter. 8 sheets, 2s. 6d each. Music, an Elementary Manual of. By Henry Leslie. 1's Polytechnic Series, the 40 Lessons in Carpentry Workshop Practice. 1's Practical Plane and Solid Geometry, including Graphic Arithmetic. 3's Engineering. 160. Popular Educator, Cassels New. With revised text, new maps, new colored plates, new type, and C. To be completed in 8 volumes 5s. Each. Popular Educator, Cassels. Complete in 6 volumes, 5s. Each. Readers, Cassels Higher Class. List on application. Readers, Cassels Historical. Illustrated throughout, printed on superior paper, and strongly bound in cloth. List on application. Readers, Cassels Readable. Carefully graduated, extremely interesting, and illustrated throughout. List on application. Readers for infant schools, colored. 3 books. 4d each. Reader, The Citizen. By H. O. Arnold Forster. Illustrated. 160. Reader, The Temperance. By Reverend J. Dennis Hurd. Cr 8vo, 1s. 6d Readers, The Modern School Geographical. List on application. Readers, The Modern School. Illustrated. List on application. Reading and Spelling Book, Cassels Illustrated. 1's School Bank Manual. By Agnes Lambert. Price 6d. Shucksburgh's Plays for School Use. 5 books. Illustrated. 6d each. Shakespeare Reading Book, The. Illustrated. 360. Also 3 books, 1s. Each. Spelling, a complete manual of. By J. D. Morrell, Doctor of Laws 1s. Technical manuals, castles. Illustrated throughout hand railing and staircasing, 3s. 6D bricklayers, drawing 4, 3s building construction, 2s cabinet makers, drawing 4, 3s carpenters and joiners, drawing 4, 3s. 6D Gothic stonework, 3s linear drawing and practical geometry, 2s linear drawing and projection. The 2 volumes in 1, 3s. 6D machinists and engineers, drawing 4, 4s. 6D metal plate workers, drawing 4, 3s model drawing, 3s orthographical and isometrical projection, 2s practical perspective, 3s stonemasons, drawing 4, 3s applied mechanics, by Sir R. S. Ball, Doctor of Laws, 2s systematic drawing and shading, 2s. Technical educator, castles. New edition, in 4 volumes, 5s. Each. Technology, manuals of. Edited by Professor Ayrton, FRS, and Richard Wormel, DSc, MA. Illustrated throughout the dyeing of textile fabrics, by Professor Hummel, 5s. Watch and clock making, by D. Glasgow, 4s. 6D steel and iron, by Professor W. H. Greenwood, FCS, MICE, and C. 5s. Spinning woolen and worsted, by W. S. B. McLaren, MP, 4s. 6D design in textile fabrics, by T. R. Ashenhurst, 4s. 6D practical mechanics, by Professor Perry, ME, 3s. 6D cutting tools worked by hand and machine, by Professor Smith, 3s. 6D a prospectus on application. Test cards, castles combination. In sets, 1s. Each. Test cards, modern school, castles. In sets, 1s. Each. Books for young people. Little Folks half-yearly volume. Containing 432 4-2 pages, with about 200 illustrations, and pictures in color. Boards, 3s. 6D, cloth, 5s. Bo Peep. A book for the little ones. With original stories and verses. Illustrated throughout. Yearly volume. Boards, 2s. 6D, cloth, 3s. 6D Castles Pictorial Scrapbook, containing several thousand pictures beautifully printed and handsomely bound in one large volume. Colored boards, 15s, cloth lettered, 21s. Flora's Feast. A Mask of Flowers. Penned and pictured by Walter Crane. With 40 pages in colors. 5s Legends for Lionel. With 40 illustrations in color, by Walter Crane. 5s The New Children's Album. FCAP 42, 320 pages. Illustrated throughout. 360. The Tales of the 60 Mandarins. By P.V. Ramaswamy Raju. With an introduction by Professor Henry Morley. Illustrated. 5s Books for Young People. Illustrated. Cloth Guild, 5s. Each. The King's Command, The Champion of Odin, or, A Story for Girls. Viking Life in the Days of Old. By Maggie Symington. By J. Fred Hodgetts. Under Bayard's Banner. Bound by a Spell, or, by Henry Frith. The Hunted Witch of the Forest, The Romance of Invention. By the Honorable Mrs. Green. By James Burnley. Books for Young People. Illustrated. Price 3s. 6d each. Polly, A New-Fashioned Girl. The Palace Beautiful. By L. T. Mead. By L. T. Mead. For Fortune and Glory, Freedom's Sword, A Story of the Sudan War. A Story of the Days of by Lewis Hoff. Wallace and Bruce. Follow My Leader. By Annie S. Swan. By Talbot Baines Reed. On Board the Esmeralda. The Cost of a Mistake. By John C. Hutchison. By Sarah Pitt. In Quest of Gold. A World of Girls, by A. St. Johnston. The Story of a School. For Queen and King. By L. T. Mead. By Henry Frith. Lost Among White Africans. Perils Afloat and Brigands Ashore. By David Kerr. By Alfred Elwes. Books for Young People. Price 2s. 6d each. Heroes of Everyday Life. Early Explorers. By Laura Lane. Illustrated. By Thomas Frost. Decisive Events in History. Home Chat with Our Young Folks. By Thomas Archer. Illustrated throughout. With original illustrations. Jungle, Peak, and Plain. The True Robinson Crusoes. Illustrated throughout. Peeps Abroad for Folks at Home. The World's Lumber Room. Illustrated. By Selena Gay. The Cross and Crown Series. With illustrations in each book. 260 each. Strong to Suffer. By Fire and Sword, A Story of the Jews. A Story of the Huguenots. By E. Wynne. By Thomas Archer. Heroes of the Indian Empire, or, Adam Hepburn's Vow, Stories of Valor and Victory. A Tale of Kirk and Covenant. By Ernest Foster. By Annie S. Swan. In Letters of Flame, No. 13, or, A Story of the Waldenses. The Story of the Lost Vestal. By C. L. Mado. A Tale of Early Christian Days. Through Trial to Triumph. By Emma Marshall. By Madeline B. Hunt. Golden Mottos Series, each book containing 208 pages, with 4 full-page original illustrations. Crown 8 VO, cloth gilt, 2s. Each. Nil Desperandum. Honor is My Guide. By the Reverend F. Langbridge, M.A. By Jeannie Herring Bear and Forbear. Mrs. Adams Acton. By Sarah Pitt. Aim at a Sure End. Foremost If I Can. By Emily Searchfield. By Helena Terridge. He Conquers Who Endures. By the author of May Cunningham's Trial, and C. Books for Children. In illuminated boards, fully illustrated. Happy Go Lucky. 2's Cheerful Clatter. 360. Daisy Blue Eyes. 2's A Dozen and One. 5's Twilight Fancies. 260. Bible Talks. 5's Castles Picture Story Books. Each containing 60 pages of pictures and stories, and C60. Each. Little Talks. Daisy's Storybook. Auntie's Stories. Bright Stars. Dot's Storybook. Birdie's Storybook. Nursery Toys. A Nest of Stories. Little Chimes. Pet's Posy. Good Night Stories. A Sheaf of Tales. Tiny Tales. Chats for Small Chatterers. Dewdrop Stories. Castle's Sixpenny Story Books. All illustrated, and containing interesting stories by well-known writers. The Smuggler's Cave. The Boat Club. Little Lizzie. Little Pickles. Little Bird, Life the Elchester College Boys. And Adventures of My First Cruise. Luke Barnicott. The Little Peacemaker. The Delft Jug. Castle's Shilling Story Books. All illustrated, and containing interesting stories. Buntuy and the Boys. Surly Bob. The Heir of Elmdale. The Giant's Cradle. The Mystery at Shawncliffe School. Shag and Doll. Claimed at last, and Roy's Reward. Aunt Lucia's Locket. Thorns and Tangles. The Magic Mirror. The Cuckoo in the Robin's Nest. The Cost of Revenge. John's Mistake. Clever Frank. The History of Five Little Pitchers. Among the Redskins. Diamonds in the Sand. The Ferryman of Brill. Harry Maxwell. A Banished Monarch. 17 Cats. Illustrated books for the little ones. Containing interesting stories. All illustrated. Ones each, cloth gilt, ones. 6D Scrambles and Scrapes. Wandering Ways. Tittle Tattle Tales. Dumb Friends. Up and Down the Garden. Those Golden Sands. All sorts of adventures. Little Mothers and Their Children. Our Sunday Stories. Our Pretty Pets. Our Holiday Hours. Our School Day Hours. Indoors and Out. Creatures Tame. Some Farm Friends. Creatures Wild. Albums for Children. Price 3s. 6D each. The Chit Chat Album. Illustrated throughout. The New Children's Album. Illustrated throughout. Cloth. The album for home, school, and play. Containing stories by popular authors. Set in bold type, and illustrated throughout. My own album of animals. With full-page illustrations. Picture album of all sorts. With full-page illustrations. Little Folks Holiday Album. A charming collection of stories, and see illustrated throughout. Cloth. The World's Workers. A series of new and original volumes. With portraits printed on a tint as frontispiece. Ones each. Dr. Arnold, of Rugby. Florence Nightingale, Catherine Marsh, by Rose E. Self. Francis Ridley Havergal, the Earl of Shaftesbury. Mrs. Rainyard, L.N.R. By Henry Frith. By Lizzie Aldridge. Sarah Robinson, Agnes Weston, Dr. Guthrie, Father Matthew, and Mrs. Meredith. Elihu Burritt, George Livesey. By E. M. Tompkinson. By John W. Curtin. Doctor of Laws Thomas A. Edison and Sir Henry Havelock and Samuel F. B. Morse. Colin Campbell, Lord Clyde. By Dr. Denslow and J. Marsh Parker. By E. C. Phillips. Mrs. Somerville and Mary Carpenter. Abraham Lincoln. By Phyllis Brown. By Ernest Foster. General Gordon. George Muller and Andrew Reed. By the Reverend S. A. Swain. By E. R. Pittman. Charles Dickens. Richard Cobden. By his eldest daughter. By R. Gowing. Sir Titus Salt and George Moore. Benjamin Franklin. By J. Burnley. By E. M. Tompkinson. David Livingstone. Handel. By Robert Smiles. By Eliza Clark. Turner the Artist. George and Robert Stevenson. By the Reverend S. A. Swain. By C. L. Mado. Library of Wonders. Illustrated gift books for boys. Paper, 1s, cloth, 1s. 6D Wonderful Adventures. Wonders of bodily strength, wonders of animal instinct and skill. Wonderful balloon ascents. Wonderful escapes. Castle's 18-penny story books. Illustrated. Wee Willie Winkie. Faith's Father. Ups and Downs of a Donkey's Life. By Land and Sea. 3 Wee Ulster Lassies. The Young Barringtons. Up the Ladder, Jeff and Lef, Dick's Hero, and Other Stories. Tom Morris's Error, The Chip Boy, Worth More Than Gold, Raggles, Baggles, and the Emperor, Through Flood Through Fire, Roses from Thorns, and Other Stories. The Girl with the Golden Locks, Stories of the Olden Time. Gift books for young people, by popular authors, with 4 original illustrations in each. Cloth Gilt, ones. 6d each. The Boy Hunters of Kentucky, by Edward S. Ellis. Red Feather, A Tale of the American Frontier, by Edward S. Ellis. Seeking a City, Rhoda's Reward, or, If Wishes Were Horses, Jack Marston's Anchor. Frank's Life Battle, or, The Three Friends. Fritters, by Sarah Pitt. The Two Hard Castles, by Madeline Bonavia Hunt. Major Monk's Motto, by the Reverend F. Langbridge. Trixie, by Maggie Symington. Rags and Rainbows, A Story of Thanksgiving. Uncle William's Charges, or, The Broken Trust. Pretty Pink's Purpose, or, The Little Street Merchants. Tim Thompson's Trial, by George Weatherly. Ursula's Stumbling Block, by Julia Goddard. Ruth's Life Work, by the Reverend Joseph Johnson. Castle's 2-shilling Story Books, illustrated. Stories of the Tower, The Four Cats of the Tippertons, Mr. Burke's Nieces, Marion's Two Homes, May Cunningham's Trial, Little Folks Sunday Book, The Top of the Ladder, 2 four-penny bits. How to Reach It? Poor Nellie, Little Flotsam, Tom Harriet, Madge and Her Friends, Through Peril to Fortune, The Children of the Court, Aunt Tabitha's Waifs, A Moonbeam Tangle, In Mischief Again, Maid Marjorie, Schoolgirls, Peggy, and Other Tales. Books for Boys, Ships, Sailors, and the Sea, by R.J. Cornwall Jones. Illustrated. Fives Modern Explorers, by Thomas Frost. Illustrated. Fives Famous Sailors of Former Times, by Clemence Markham. Illustrated. 260. Wild Adventures in Wild Places, by Dr. Gordon Stables, R.N. Illustrated. Fives The Deerfoot Series, by Edward S. Ellis, with 4 full-page illustrations in each book. Cloth, beveled boards, 2s. 6d each. The Hunters of the Ozark, The Camp in the Mountains, The Last War Trail, The Log Cabin Series, by Edward S. Ellis, with 4 full-page illustrations in each. Crown 8vo, cloth, 2s. 6d each. The Lost Trail, Campfire and Wigwam, Footprints in the Forest, The Great River Series, by Edward S. Ellis. Illustrated. Crown 8vo, cloth, beveled boards, 2s. 6d each. Down the Mississippi, Lost in the Wilds, Up the Tapajos, or, Adventures in Brazil, The Boy Pioneer Series, by Edward S. Ellis, with 4 full-page illustrations in each book. Crown 8vo, cloth, 2s. 6d each. Ned in the Woods, A Tale of Early Days in the West, Ned on the River, A Tale of Indian River Warfare, Ned in the Blockhouse, A Story of Pioneer Life in Kentucky, The World in Pictures, illustrated throughout. 260 each. A Ramble Round France, Glimpses of South America, All the Russias. Round Africa. Chats about Germany. The land of temples, India. The land of the pyramids, Egypt. The Isles of the Pacific. The Eastern Wonderland, Japan. Peeps into China. Half-crown story books. Little Hinges. At the South Pole. Margaret's Enemy. Soldier and Patriot Penn's Perplexities. George Washington. Notable Shipwrecks. Picture of School Life and Boyhood. Golden Days. The Young Man in the Battle of Life. Wonders of Common Things. By the Reverend Dr. Landals. Truth Will Out. The True Glory of Woman. By the Reverend Dr. Landals. 3 and 6 Penny Library of Standard Tales, N.C. All illustrated and bound in cloth gilt. Crown 8 VO3s. 6d each. Jane Austen and Her Works. Peggy Ogilvy's Inheritance. Mission Life in Greece, The Family Honor. And Palestine. Esther West. The Three Homes. Working to Win. Deepdale Vicarage. Krylov and His Fables. In Duty Bound. By W.R.S. Ralston, M.A. The Half-Sisters. Fairy Tales. By Professor Morley. Books for the Little Ones. The Merry-Go-Round. Poems for Children. Illustrated. Fives Rhymes for the Young Folk. By William Allingham. Beautifully illustrated. 360. The Little Doings of Some Little Folks. By Chatty Cheerful. Illustrated. Fives The Sunday Scrapbook. With 1000 scripture pictures. Boards, 5s, cloth, 7s. 60 Daisy Dimples Scrapbook. Containing about 1000 pictures. Cloth gilt, 7s. 60 The History Scrapbook. With nearly 1000 engravings. 5s, cloth, 7s. 60 Little Folks Picture Album. With 168 large pictures. 5s The Old Fairy Tales. With original illustrations. Boards, 1s, cl, 1s. 6d My Diary. With 12 colored plates and 366 woodcuts. 1 Sandford and Merton, in words of 1 syllable. Illustrated 2s. 6d The Story of Robin Hood. With colored illustrations. 260. The Pilgrim's Progress. With colored illustrations. 260. We Little Rhymes. 160. Little Ones Welcome. 160. Little Gossips. 160. Ding Dong Bell. 160. Good Times. 160. Castle and Company's complete catalogue will be sent post-free on application to Castle and Company, Limited, Ludgate Hill, London. Transcriber's notes: antiquated spellings were not corrected. The illustrations have been moved so that they do not break up paragraphs and so that they are next to the text they illustrate. Typographical and punctuation errors have been silently corrected. End of the Project Gutenberg ebook. The True History of the Ghost updated editions will replace the previous one. The old editions will be renamed. Creating the works from print editions not protected by U.S. copyright law means that no one owns a United States copyright in these works, so the Foundation, and you, can copy and distribute it in the United States without permission and without paying copyright royalties. Special rules, set forth in the general terms of use part of this license, apply to copying and distributing Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works to protect the Project Gutenberg trademark concept and trademark. Project Gutenberg is a registered trademark, and may not be used if you charge for an ebook, except by following the terms of the trademark license, including paying royalties for use of the Project Gutenberg trademark. If you do not charge anything for copies of this ebook, complying with the trademark license is very easy. You may use this ebook for nearly any purpose, such as creation of derivative works, reports, performances, and research. Project Gutenberg ebooks may be modified and printed and given away. You may do practically anything in the United States with ebooks not protected by U.S. copyright law. Redistribution is subject to the trademark license, especially commercial redistribution. Start. Full license. The full Project Gutenberg license. Please read this before you distribute or use this work to protect the Project Gutenberg trademark mission of promoting the free distribution of electronic works. By using or distributing this work, or any other work associated in any way with the phrase Project Gutenberg, you agree to comply with all the terms of the full Project Gutenberg trademark license available with this file or online at www.gutenberg.org/license. Section 1. General Terms of Use and Redistributing Project Gutenberg Trademark Electronic Works 1.a. By reading or using any part of this Project Gutenberg trademark electronic work, you indicate that you have read, understand, agree to and accept all the terms of this license and intellectual property, trademark/copyright, agreement. If you do not agree to abide by all the terms of this agreement, you must cease using and return or destroy all copies of Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works in your possession. If you paid a fee for obtaining a copy of or access to a Project Gutenberg trademark electronic work and you do not agree to be bound by the terms of this agreement, you may obtain a refund from the person or entity to whom you paid the fee as set forth in paragraph 1.e.8. 1.b. Project Gutenberg is a registered trademark. It may only be used on or associated in any way with an electronic work by people who agree to be bound by the terms of this agreement. There are a few things that you can do with most Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works even without complying with the full terms of this agreement. See paragraph 1.c below. There are a lot of things you can do with Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works if you follow the terms of this agreement and help preserve free future access to Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works. See paragraph 1.e below. 1.c. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the Foundation or PGLOF, owns a compilation copyright in the collection of Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works. Nearly all the individual works in the collection are in the public domain in the United States. If an individual work is unprotected by copyright law in the United States and you are located in the United States, we do not claim a right to prevent you from copying, distributing, performing, displaying, or creating derivative works based on the work as long as all references to Project Gutenberg are removed. Of course, we hope that you will support the Project Gutenberg trademark mission of promoting free access to electronic works by freely sharing Project Gutenberg trademark works in compliance with the terms of this agreement for keeping the Project Gutenberg trademark name associated with the work. You can easily comply with the terms of this agreement by keeping this work in the same format with its attached full Project Gutenberg trademark license when you share it without charge with others. 1.d. The copyright laws of the place where you are located also govern what you can do with this work. Copyright laws in most countries are in a constant state of change. If you are outside the United States, check the laws of your country in addition to the terms of this agreement before downloading, copying, displaying, performing, distributing or creating derivative works based on this work or any other Project Gutenberg trademark work. The Foundation makes no representations concerning the copyright status of any work in any country other than the United States. 1.e. Unless you have removed all references to Project Gutenberg, 1.e.1. The following sentence, with active links to, or other immediate access to, The full Project Gutenberg trademark license must appear prominently whenever any copy of a Project Gutenberg trademark work, any work on which the phrase Project Gutenberg appears, or with which the phrase Project Gutenberg is associated, is accessed, displayed, performed, viewed, copied or distributed. This ebook is for the use of anyone anywhere in the United States and most other parts of the world at no cost and with almost no restrictions whatsoever. You may copy it, give it away or reuse it under the terms of the Project Gutenberg license included with this ebook or online at www.gutenberg.org. If you are not located in the United States, you will have to check the laws of the country where you are located before using this ebook. 1.e.2 If an individual Project Gutenberg trademark electronic work is derived from texts not protected by U.S. copyright law, does not contain a notice indicating that it is posted with permission of the copyright holder, the work can be copied and distributed to anyone in the United States without paying any fees or charges. If you are redistributing or providing access to a work with the phrase Project Gutenberg associated with or appearing on the work, you must comply either with the requirements of paragraphs 1.e.1 through 1.e.7 or obtain permission for the use of the work and the Project Gutenberg trademark as set forth in paragraphs 1.e.8 or 1.e.9. 1.e.3 If an individual Project Gutenberg trademark electronic work is posted with the permission of the copyright holder, your use and distribution must comply with both paragraphs 1.e.1 through 1.e.7 and any additional terms imposed by the copyright holder. Additional terms will be linked to the Project Gutenberg trademark license for all works posted with the permission of the copyright holder found at the beginning of this work. 1.e.4 Do not unlink or detach or remove the full Project Gutenberg trademark license terms from this work, or any files containing a part of this work or any other work associated with Project Gutenberg trademark. 1.e.5 Do not copy, display, perform, distribute or redistribute this electronic work, or any part of this electronic work, without prominently displaying the sentence set forth in paragraph 1.e.1 with active links or immediate access to the full terms of the Project Gutenberg trademark license. 1.e.6 You may convert to and distribute this work in any binary, compressed, marked up, non-proprietary or proprietary form, including any word processing or hypertext form. However, if you provide access to or distribute copies of a Project Gutenberg trademark work in a format other than plain vanilla ASCII or other format used in the official version posted on the official Project Gutenberg trademark website, www.gutenberg.org, you must, at no additional cost, fee, or expense to the user, provide a copy, a means of exporting a copy, or a means of obtaining a copy upon request, of the work in its original plain vanilla ASCII or other form. Any alternate format must include the full Project Gutenberg trademark license as specified in paragraph 1.e.1. 1.e.7 Do not charge a fee for access to, viewing, displaying, performing, copying or distributing any Project Gutenberg trademark works unless you comply with paragraph 1.e.8 or 1.e.9. 1.e.8 You may charge a reasonable fee for copies of or providing access to or distributing Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works provided that, you pay a royalty fee of 20% of the gross profits you derive from the use of Project Gutenberg trademark works calculated using the method you already use to calculate your applicable taxes. The fee is owed to the owner of the Project Gutenberg trademark, but he has agreed to donate royalties under this paragraph to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. Royalty payments must be paid within 60 days following each date on which you prepare, or are legally required to prepare, your periodic tax returns. Royalty payments should be clearly marked as such and sent to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation at the address specified in Section 4, Information about donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. You provide a full refund of any money paid by a user who notifies you in writing, or by email, within 30 days of receipt that he does not agree to the terms of the full Project Gutenberg trademark license. You must require such a user to return or destroy all copies of the works possessed in a physical medium and discontinue all use of and all access to other copies of Project Gutenberg trademark works. You provide, in accordance with paragraph 1.f.3, a full refund of any money paid for a work or a replacement copy, if a defect in the electronic work is discovered and reported to you within 90 days of receipt of the work. You comply with all other terms of this agreement for free distribution of Project Gutenberg trademark works. 1.e.9. If you wish to charge a fee or distribute a Project Gutenberg trademark electronic work or group of works on different terms than are set forth in this agreement, you must obtain permission in writing from the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the manager of the Project Gutenberg trademark. Contact the Foundation as set forth in Section 3 below. 1.f.1.f.1. Project Gutenberg volunteers and employees expend considerable effort to identify, do copyright research on, transcribe and proofread works not protected by U.S. copyright law in creating the Project Gutenberg trademark collection. Despite these efforts, Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works, and the medium on which they may be stored, may contain defects, such as, but not limited to, incomplete, inaccurate or corrupt data, transcription errors, a copyright or other intellectual property infringement, a defective or damaged disk or other medium, a computer virus, or computer codes that damage or cannot be read by your equipment. 1.f.2. Limited warranty. Disclaimer of damages, except for the right of replacement or refund described in paragraph 1.f.3, the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the owner of the Project Gutenberg trademark, and any other party distributing a Project Gutenberg trademark electronic work under this agreement, disclaim all liability to you for damages, costs, and expenses, including legal fees. You agree that you have no remedies for negligence, strict liability, breach of warranty or breach of contract except those provided in paragraph 1.f.3. You agree that the Foundation, the trademark owner, and any distributor under this agreement will not be liable to you for actual, direct, indirect, consequential, punitive, or incidental damages even if you give notice of the possibility of such damage. 1.f.3. Limited right of replacement or refund. If you discover a defect in this electronic work within 90 days of receiving it, you can receive a refund of the money, if any, you paid for it by sending a written explanation to the person you received the work from. If you received the work on a physical medium, you must return the medium with your written explanation. The person or entity that provided you with the defective work may elect to provide a replacement copy in lieu of a refund. If you received the work electronically, the person or entity providing it to you may choose to give you a second opportunity to receive the work electronically in lieu of a refund. If the second copy is also defective, you may demand a refund in writing without further opportunities to fix the problem. 1.f.4. Except for the limited right of replacement or refund set forth in paragraph 1.f.3, this work is provided to you as is, with no other warranties of any kind, express or implied, including but not limited to warranties of merchantability or fitness for any purpose. 1.f.5. Some states do not allow disclaimers of certain implied warranties or the exclusion or limitation of certain types of damages. If any disclaimer or limitation set forth in this agreement violates the law of the state applicable to this agreement, the agreement shall be interpreted to make the maximum disclaimer or limitation permitted by the applicable state law. The invalidity or unenforceability of any provision of this agreement shall not void the remaining provisions. 1.f.6 Indemnity. You agree to indemnify and hold the foundation, the trademark owner, any agent or employee of the foundation, anyone providing copies of Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works in accordance with this agreement, and any volunteers associated with the production, promotion, and distribution of Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works, harmless from all liability, costs, and expenses, including legal fees, that arise directly or indirectly from any of the following which you do or cause to occur. A. Distribution of this or any Project Gutenberg trademark work. B. Alteration, modification, or additions or deletions to any Project Gutenberg trademark work, and C. Any defect you cause. Section 2. Information about the mission of Project Gutenberg trademark. Project Gutenberg trademark is synonymous with the free distribution of electronic works in formats readable by the widest variety of computers, including obsolete, old, middle-aged, and new computers. It exists because of the efforts of hundreds of volunteers and donations from people in all walks of life. Volunteers and financial support to provide volunteers with the assistance they need are critical to reaching Project Gutenberg trademark's goals and ensuring that the Project Gutenberg trademark collection will remain freely available for generations to come. In 2001, the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation was created to provide a secure and permanent future for Project Gutenberg trademark and future generations. To learn more about the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation and how your efforts and donations can help, see sections 3 and 4 and the Foundation information page at www.gutenberg.org. Section 3. Information about the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation is a non-profit 501(c)(3) educational corporation organized under the laws of the state of Mississippi and granted tax-exempt status by the Internal Revenue Service. The Foundation's IN or federal tax identification number is 64-6221541. Contributions to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation are tax-deductible to the full extent permitted by U.S. federal laws and your state's laws. The Foundation's business office is located at 809 North 1500 West, Salt Lake City, Utah 84116801596-1887. Email contact links and up-to-date contact information can be found at the Foundation's website and official page at www.gutenberg.org/contact. Section 4. Information about donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. Project Gutenberg trademark depends upon and cannot survive without widespread public support and donations to carry out its mission of increasing the number of public domain and licensed works that can be freely distributed in machine-readable form accessible by the widest array of equipment, including outdated equipment. Many small donations, $1 to $5,000, are particularly important to maintaining tax-exempt status with the IRS. The Foundation is committed to complying with the laws regulating charities and charitable donations in all 50 states of the United States. Compliance requirements are not uniform and it takes a considerable effort, much paperwork, and many fees to meet and keep up with these requirements. We do not solicit donations in locations where we have not received written confirmation of compliance. To send donations or determine the status of compliance for any particular state, visit www.gutenberg.org/donate. While we cannot and do not solicit contributions from states where we have not met the solicitation requirements, we know of no prohibition against accepting unsolicited donations from donors in such states who approach us with offers to donate. International donations are gratefully accepted, but we cannot make any statements concerning tax treatment of donations received from outside the United States. U.S. laws alone swamp our small staff. Please check the Project Gutenberg web pages for current donation methods and addresses. Donations are accepted in a number of other ways, including checks, online payments, and credit card donations. To donate, please visit www.gutenberg.org/donate. Section 5. General information about Project Gutenberg Trademark Electronic Works. Professor Michael S. Hart was the originator of the Project Gutenberg trademark concept of a library of electronic works that could be freely shared with anyone. For 40 years, he produced and distributed Project Gutenberg trademark ebooks with only a loose network of volunteer support. Project Gutenberg trademark ebooks are often created from several printed editions, all of which are confirmed as not protected by copyright in the US unless a copyright notice is included. Thus, we do not necessarily keep ebooks in compliance with any particular paper edition. Most people start at our website, which has the main PG search facility, www.gutenberg.org. This website includes information about Project Gutenberg trademark, including how to make donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, how to help produce our new ebooks, and how to subscribe to our email newsletter to hear about new ebooks. The True History of the Ghost, and all about metempsychosis. Th Ghost. Nouvelles et Fate Divers. The Patent Ghost. Metempsychosis. Selections from Castle and Company's publications. Illustrated, Fine Art, and other volumes. Bibles and religious works. Educational works and students' manuals. Books for young people. The full Project Gutenberg license PG1, PG2, PG3, PG4, PG5, PG6, PG8, PG9, PG10, PG11, PG12, PG13, PG14, PG15, PG16, PG17, PG18, PG19, PG20, PG21, PG22, PG23, PG24, PG25, PG26, PG27, PG28, PG29, PG30, PG31, PG32, PG33, PG34, PG35, PG36, PG37, PG38, PG39, PG40, PG41, PG42, PG44.